Everything's computer.
For a second.
I love Tesla. It's such an honor to see so many of you like Brian and your friends here with us to celebrate and to more importantly celebrate what we're doing, because that wouldn't be a full celebration if we didn't do this, because this will be an entirely different country in a short period of time. It'll be something the whole world will be talking about it. The critics made the very tired predictions earlier this year, but in February, core inflation dropped to the lowest rate in 4 years. And the price of eggs, as you know, just in a month and a half, we were there for 4 weeks. And the first week I got blamed for eggs. I said, I just got here. They said eggs have gone up at like 250% and you can't get eggs. And they were going crazy. And I said, I just got here. And then we got to work on eggs, and we got to work on everything. And our great Secretary of Agriculture, you did a fantastic job. Brooke Rollins, she did a fantastic job. And as I said before, the price of eggs dropped now 59%, and they're going down more, and the availability is fantastic. They were saying that for Easter, please don't use eggs. Could you use plastic eggs? I said, we don't want to do that. We want to. And you really came through. It's an amazing job. Thank you very much, Brooke. You did great. But likewise, an old-fashioned term that we use, groceries. I used it in the campaign. It's such an old-fashioned term, but a beautiful term, groceries. It sort of says a bag with different things in it. Groceries went through the roof. And I campaigned on that. I talked about the word groceries for a lot. And energy costs now are down. Groceries are down. Gasoline is way under $3, and people are beginning to be able to buy things and live again. We brought prices way down. We created 10,000 already in a few weeks, new manufacturing jobs. And it was that took place in 1 month, numbers that they haven't seen in a long time. We had virtually no inflation under my term. We had virtually no inflation for 4 years. But after transitioning over to Sleepy Joe, it went from almost non-existent to the highest in the history of our country. They had the highest inflation in the history of our country, brought up by energy and bad spending and bad policy, and a lot of bad things happened. How about allowing millions and millions and millions of people to pour into our country with open borders, where it's so sad to see even now. And I see our great secretary of you have done. Stand up, please, Christy. Stand up. Christy Nome. And Tom Homan. These people are doing a great job.
I love Tesla.
Gotten them out in records. We have problems with judges that don't want them to go out. They want Tren de Aragua, and they want MS-13, the most vicious gangs ever. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Absolute killer gangs. They kill people. They don't even think about it. And we put them out, and we have judges now, radical left judges that want to
Yeah, I had to put y'all out of your misery there, but if I had to hear all of that, then so did y'all. Petition to make Trenderakwa a new sound drop. But hello, humans, this is your power report for today, the 3rd of April, 2025. T+1 for Liberation Day. I'm your host, Dan from the internet. I'm joined by Bam and Sachi here on screen. How are y'all doing?
Doing good.
I'm doing good. I'm having a terrible hair day. This is why I'm wearing my hat. Go Celtics, by the way. Anybody who disagrees, go fuck yourself. No, I'm just kidding. But that's world champs, baby. Okay, we're winners. We're winners. We won 18. That's all that matters.
I just got a haircut, fresh haircut, so I'm not gonna wear my competing team of a much more successful, much more storied Los Angeles team, the Clippers. But no, I listen,
both franchises with storied racist incidences / histories.
Bam, it's a good thing you mentioned that because I'm watching a documentary right now. Actually, it's really good. It's a Celtics documentary, and they do tackle that quite a bit in the early stages and talking about the reception that Black players had in Boston. Really good. Check it out. It's on Max. If anybody has Max, I recommend it.
It's still going on. Also, Dan trying to jock my swag with the globe in the background. Really swagger jacking. Oh, can a brother have anything in 2028? Swaggerlicious.
I've had this globe behind me for like a year and a half, damn near 2 years.
Okay, I've never seen it until today. Swagger jacking.
No. Actually, before I moved into this current setup, I had it in my old setup. It was like just further behind me. So you know what? It's okay. At least, and I definitely remember picking up the map and pointing it, or specifically pointing at wrong parts of the Middle East whenever Bam is referring to an African country. And so I know for sure we've done that. Anyways, this is a let's bring it down here because we're gonna have fun, but at the end of the day, our number one mantra is
a news show, and that is what happened in the news.
The gift that
I love Tesla.
are like my favorite sound drops, man. I'm sorry, but yeah,
Listen, you can't tell the difference between the two of them. Okay.
It's kind of true, honestly.
You got to be careful. So, no, there's a lot. I mean, thank you, producer Sachi. But yeah, there's a lot to go through this week. For just, some starters, the heat to make sure that Mahmoud Khalil attention is not lost on that is still happening. There are students protesting at Columbia University. Jewish Voice for Peace, actually, who are chaining themselves to university fences to protest what's going on. The House GOP, actually, Speaker Mike Johnson throws a fit because it turns out there are a couple of Republicans who hate women just slightly less than the average Republican. And so Mike Johnson took his ball and went home. I'd love to talk about that for a little bit. Black colleges. That'll be interesting. Black people at colleges, Black colleges and universities. No, it's all related too. Here's an interesting stat because I want to talk about this. It's like a big thing in the discourse. I'm just going to skip over the abundance discourse because every other show's talked about it. And I've made my take about Ezra Klein. He has good points. He has bad points. This is a bad point. But the thing that was in the discourse for me this week was this thing about Black male enrollment in colleges. And no, I'm not going to rant it right. I'm not going to blame white leftists for this one completely. But I will. I think it's interesting. I'm going to read some other news stories, but here's an interesting stat I want to tease people for because we'll talk about this a lot later in the show. There are currently about the same number of Black men at historically Black colleges and universities as there are non-Black people at HBCUs. So the number of Black men and the number of non-Black people at HBCUs across the country is about the same.
I kind of like that.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
The race to the bottom for California governor just got a little bit more intense. All three of these people who are involved are gonna lose to Republicans. So, good luck. Good luck with that. And Elon Musk drinks a tall glass of shut up juice. But we begin with the tariffs. Thankfully, from my finance days, I'm not horrendously invested in the stock market. I learned better than that. But President Trump, in that part of that rambling speech where he was talking about immigration and an old-fashioned word called groceries, and all of a sudden when I got into office, they were complaining about grocery prices. It wasn't me, Donald Trump, running on inflation and how Biden had made the economy unaffordable. No, it was just all of a sudden I get elected and we're all talking about egg prices. And he says egg prices have gone down. I haven't seen a chart recently, but I do follow an account from a guy in the Midwest who has just been recording egg prices at his local grocery stores every day since the inauguration. And it started at $2 and now it's like at $7 and it hasn't gone down. So rip to you. Gumshoe journalism right there. But yeah, we gotta, oh man, this is great. So he brought out a tariff board, basically. If I can play the short right here, and it was like a couple of boards ultimately, and I'll mute it because I subjected you to 4 minutes of Donald Trump in the cold open. That's just way too much already. But he is going, and you know what, actually no, one more again. I'm gonna play a little bit of this. 1 second. Technical going, yeah.
67%, European Union 39%, Vietnam 90%, Taiwan 64%. We're going to charge them 32%. Japan 46%. They would charge us 46%. India very, very tough, very, very tough. They charge us 52%. Switzerland 61% to 31%. Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia. Oh, look at Cambodia, 97%.
That's the one I wanted to pause at because it's like it's all of the poverty countries. No offense, all right, because I was surprised by my ancestral homeland, the Malagasy Republic, Madagascar, getting hit with 47% tariffs. I mean, trust me, if I had bought something in my entire life in America that was made from Madagascar, I would have kept it for my entire life because that's hard for me, actually. But what is turns out Madagascar has got all the cobalt. No, it's no.
I saw that Lesotho got the biggest tariffs in Africa, or even by far. I mean, according to that chart, which I think is absolute bullshit. But
no. Just be clear, Bam. To be fair to you, it is absolute bullshit. It's a fact. It's a fact.
Yeah.
Donald Trump came out with these numbers. I think we'll talk about it a little bit later. But these numbers about there's supposed to be one section, and people have seen a version of this chart. It's now become a meme, which I'm I've got a whole other feelings about. Maybe some things we shouldn't meme. Maybe we should just talk about these things and be like, hey, yo, I know it's laugh and get your clicks and get your likes, but we're about to hit a recession. But the chart we've been seeing here, and I'll bring it up again. It has the column with the country names. It has the first blue column with percentages. And these are supposedly, as the Trump administration has been saying, are the existing tariffs that these countries are placing on the United States. I'm going to try as much as this episode to not be the annoying international political economy major that I was, because I immediately saw this and I'm like, nope. And then once I saw the debunking of it, I was like, well, the Trump administration came out and said, oh no, this is the and that's how you knew they fucked up. They showed the equation for how they came up with the tariffs. And I was just like, oh, they fucked. Oh, not only did they fuck up, they think you're stupid. They think you're stupid because I'll go into it later. But basically, The blue column with the percentage numbers is BS. It's meant to make the yellow column where Trump is like, these are reciprocal tariffs, all right? I tariff you, you tariff us, we tariff you. That's all it is. And we're going to start live. We're only doing this arbitrary half of the bullshit number tariffs that we're talking about. So that's how much I'm keeping in right now. But bam, it's to your point, like those numbers are bullshit. And then once you're done, Sacha Luigi can go ahead and speak. He's wearing the green hat, dude. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, like, anytime you see Trump like holding any chart or paper, you know this is like absolute bullshit. It absolutely reminded me of the Sharpie hurricane, and then I want to say it was before that hurricane Sharpie incident. I remember he was like holding some chart talking about the weapons that his administration sold to Saudi Arabia, like, and he's just like holding something, and I'm like, you're acting like you invented America selling weapons to Saudi Arabia. Like, that's been going on for a long time, buddy. He's like, oh, we sold 400 million. And we're like, okay. Like,
I mean, I remember when he ran in 2015, he did an interview with The Economist, and he said, you know, it's all about priming the pump. I came up with that, priming the pump. And notably, you know, usually conservatives worship at the altar of Milton Friedman, the like neoliberal, like tear everything down economist. The one who came up with priming the pump is The Economist, that basically his thinking, you know, along with the actions of the FDR administration, got us out of the Great Depression, which was, by the way, caused in large part by ridiculous tariffs like this. And that was Keynes, John Maynard Keynes. I'm bad with my names right now, but like that's Keynesian. That's Keynesian economics. Priming the pump, the idea that you wherever money is going, the government should invest in that, so you get a multiplier on that money. That's priming the pump in a very simple way I can describe it. Trump was like, I came up with that. That's me. That's me. So yeah,
like he ever pumped gas before.
Sacha, your thoughts before I get demonetized in the first 7 minutes.
No, free Luigi, by the way, since I am Sacha Luigi. I'm just going to say that. But second of all,
you're a citizen, right?
Huh?
You're a citizen, right?
Am I? I don't know anymore. I was going to say, what the ramifications of this too, beyond, well, speaking to Bam's point, also your point, Dan, Trump it's just another example of these bullshit numbers that we're talking about. It's another example of this administration going by, you know, they're winging it and they're trying to act badass in the process. And usually when you're in power and you try to wing things, it doesn't work out as well as it should. You know, it just doesn't work. And we're seeing that play out. But I just want to talk about the ramifications really quickly. And speaking to how this is affecting everyday people, I think 5 auto plants have already started laying off workers. I think Detroit or in Michigan, they laid off 900 workers temporarily. At Stellantis, I believe it's called.
Yeah, and just for the non-car nerds out there, Stellantis is the predecessor company was the Fiat Chrysler Auto Group or Automotive, and it is this post-recession merger between Dodge, Chrysler, the Mopar corporations in the United States, and one of the big U.S. automakers, with Fiat, the Italian automaker. And Stellantis is a big conglomerate. I think there might be some French ones in there too. But for all intents and purposes, because of the Dodge, Chrysler, Ram relationship, Stellantis gets to be included among the quote-unquote big 3 automakers, which also includes General Motors and their subsidiaries, and the Ford Motor Company, and I think it's just Lincoln at this point that's a subsidiary. But yeah, all these companies, mind you, and this applies to the German automakers. They have plants in America because of, you know, previous trade deals. It's like, okay, these companies figured out that because of tariffs, because of agreements, etc., it made sense to assemble the cars in the United States for the European companies, and it made sense for the American auto companies to have some of the assembly and parts work done in Canada and Mexico. So you can imagine the problem with American companies, as Sachi is saying, when you have neoliberalism working. This is the grand idea of we're not going to have wars anymore because we're going to be so economically intertwined. And you can see, I think someone said it really well, but like the hubris of American propaganda to believe otherwise about the international economy since the 1950s, since post World War II. And you can see that just like oozing out of Trump and his people. Sasha, yeah, I cut you off, so go ahead, continue.
No worries. Yeah, that's what I was just kind of getting to the brass tacks of it in terms of beyond, price of goods going up and cost of goods going or whatever. You're going to have people who don't have guaranteed they're going to get their jobs back, right? And it's just going to be a free-for-all just decline for quality of life as well. And it's going to hit, of course, poor working class people the hardest. And again, the cruelty is the point at the end of the day. And this is just another example of that beyond the global scale of it, kind of when it comes back close to home. The cruelty is the point.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because this is the guy who, like he said, he ran on grocery prices and the border, basically. It's really easy to deport, random people or people that are like, like that's the easy part, but that doesn't really like impact people's lives at all. There were a lot of people that were under the impression that the country was in a recession at the end of Biden's term. And they were like, Trump is going to bring us back to whatever. And him and the other Republicans are like openly saying, no, we're going to suffer now, but there's going to be better later deal. And it's just really unfortunate that it's just hard to know like what it's for, like what, I'm actually like curious and like, Dan, I'm like going to ask you like, who is supposed to benefit from these alleged tariffs that'll probably last a week, but who's supposed to benefit from these?
Sachi, do you have any ideas?
Well, no, I was asking you. You're a finance guy. You're an econ guy.
I know, but like, I think you don't need to. And again, Ben, this is not an insult on anyone, but like, you don't need to know economics to figure out who this is going to, because I think you even alluded to it right there, in that these tariffs, he's done this 2 or 3 other times just in the second term, and then immediately he doubles back. And I'll tease the fact, and I want Sachi to jump in here because I think it's like a good point here, but like, I'll tease the fact that there are people within the Trump administration, let's call them insiders, who are able to look at what's going on in between these really volatile moments, and they're able to execute trades. I don't know what that sounds like to anyone else. Those two ideas put together. Maybe Nancy Pelosi might know, but Sachi, what are your thoughts?
Information technology, right? That's what we're no.
That was a good one.
No, but it's
female to male ports. That's what BAM was doing in the USB, USB-A, that kind of thing. Go ahead.
Magnets.
That's exactly what it is. What it comes down to, benefiting the buddies, as it were, who can monopolize on this. As just at the end of the day, it's monopoly for them, quite literally playing the game Monopoly, and they're the rich get richer. That's what it boils down to for me, and that's what we're at.
No, totally. And building off of that, like, to be clear, what I'm saying is, I mean, I don't know this for a fact. I'm just saying that I know how these finance people work, and they are ruthless individualists. I mean, I think it's like a Raleigh. This gets rebranded as like part of the American psyche, and this is what makes capitalism in America so great. No, it's imperialist psyche. It's again, not every single white person, but the same sort of like white mindset that brought you the Trail of Tears in America, the manifest destiny sort of aspect of this thing. The forget you, I'm gonna get mines sort of culture of this. You know, the rugged individualism, independent side of this. Like, this is what it is. Because when Donald Trump is speaking from Air Force One, a plane that he has said is dingy and disgusting, and he'd rather be on his own private jet, and he says, we might have to have some pain. He's saying y'all might have to have some pain. When I forget, but he's like the Treasury Secretary now or something. But he was sitting on an interview saying, like, listen, if my mom, who's 95 years old or whatever, if she would have missed a Social Security check, whatever, she might think there was a mistake, and, you know, she'll figure it out, and she'll wait till it eventually comes, or, you know, wait till next month and she'll figure it out. Like, these are people who either, you know, truly or maliciously, and I think there's a room for a yes and there, they are willing to play this like high stakes gambling with the stock market in ways that are very eerily similar to every single economic crash we've had in this country that has been caused by some form of financialization. Whether you have financialization is a second half of the 20th century term that goes to like when money itself becomes an asset and not just a thing you use as a currency to like trade for other goods and services. Like I'm trying not to get too wonky here, but the 2008 financial crisis was all about mortgage-backed securities. And so it was the idea that my tea here, like, you know, a product that I can get from a store for like $3, used to be $2.50, but fucking Biden. But you know, like, a mortgage-backed security is not a thing you can really hold. Like, even the paperwork doesn't really quite do it justice. It is a concept. It is a, yeah, it's a security is a financial instrument, and a financial instrument is like, I'm getting into vaguer and vaguer terms because I'm not describing something you can hold, right?
I remember that time the big word was derivatives.
Yeah, and guess what? Derivative in math is something that I frankly barely understand, but a derivative is basically just like, in a economic sort of sense, in a finance sort of sense rather, it is an asset that is based off of another asset, right? So this is what financialization is. Like, it's all, if you're not understanding it and you're like, sounds bullshit, sounds like a Ponzi scheme, sounds like crypto. It's like, okay, so I'm buying this token that's connected to this other thing, and, you know, I can trade it for this, and I can eventually cash it out in a couple of days, but the IRS is going to be like, like, you're in this weird world. And again, like, we're getting back to this mindset of you get rich and greedy people who trip on their dicks so heavy that they're like, yeah, screw it. We know the government's going to back us. It's like a too big to fail mindset. Let's gamble a little bit. Let's crush the stock market. You have people, and I hate to do the laziest pundit game in the world, but let's just imagine Biden was doing this. Let's imagine if Biden was forcing CNBC hosts to like shoot rockets out of their pants, like, because they're like so pissed at all of the red they're seeing on their screen, like the nose diving of their stocks. Like, they can be complaining about, oh, there's people's got so much money in the stock market, these are their retirement, this is their investment. But now, or, you know, it doesn't have to be Biden even doing this purposely. It can be, you know, the stock market largely went up during the Biden administration, which is another thing to point out there about the lack of connection between Americans' material conditions and the stock market. Because the most people will try to convince you is saying that, oh, well, a lot of people have their retirement in 401ks, these securities. 401k is a security. It's a financial instrument that replaced pensions in the 80s because Republicans took away pensions, a thing you paid into out of your income, and everyone paid into, and they would take out of once they retired. And they said, these are inefficient. These involve the government. We're instead going to tie it to Las Vegas with suits. We're going to tie it to Wall Street. And, if the rich get richer, maybe you can pull out your Home Depot bucket and maybe you'll collect some of the drops that fall down from the golden shower. All right. But if the rich get slightly less rich, you're going to be eating cat food in your retirement. Like that's the 401k system. And, there are people who paid into these things all their life. And when you pay into Social Security all your life, you get it back. Conservatives are trying to fight every way possible to make that not happen. But if you pay into Social Security all your life in America, you get that back. And it's not nearly enough. And it should be funded more. And then there's a cliff coming up that we need to adjust the funding for it to make sure that we can continue to provide these benefits to people. But these are the people who are saying, no, sorry, you're going to have to suffer. We shouldn't be. Social Security is a scam. It's a Ponzi scheme. You should be investing. You should be responsibly investing in the stock market. Pay no attention to Donald Trump, who is irresponsibly messing with the stock market. It's your personal responsibility to stop being poor. Meanwhile, we're going to rip up the ladder to make sure no one else can get as rich as us, because they see it as zero sum. And a long-winded way to answer your question, this is a naked, brazen, shocking, scary, like pump and dump with a super economy that is the United States. Like, you're seeing the decay of United States power right now. Because the other thing I'll add, and this will be the last point, is that the post-World War II, like Bretton Woods economic system that came out of World War II, where the United States did the Marshall Plan to refund and rebuild Europe. For people who don't know what I'm talking about, think of Europe as Ukraine. We sent all of our money there instead of helping ourselves. But you know what? Like, that worked. And we didn't do a lot of reinvestment here because we got high on our hog and we felt like, oh yeah, we're a superpower, we're an empire. We wrote books called The End of History because we felt like we had solved all the problems in the 80s and the 90s with neoliberalism. You're seeing people who never believed in the vision. You're, for lack of a better term, and for my usual Dan from the Internet shock value, you're seeing the handsy pastors. You're seeing the handsy sort of like clergy, right now, of people who practice the religion of capitalism and all hail the free markets, but behind the scenes they're diddling kids, kind of literally, but also like behind the scenes they don't care about the religion that they preach. They just want to get theirs. They want to get mines. And yeah, that's quite literally through the behavior of people like Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth and a couple other people in that crew. But literally with like all of our money. And I'm genuinely scared about that, because the people in, not even superpower, like around Trump's orbit, but the people below that, they all lead to power. And so if you're working at a company that's listed at the stock market and you had to impose tariffs, or like you got tariffs imposed on you and your stock just went down by like 30%, the first thing you're going to do as a CEO is going to be like, I'm going to lay off some people. I'm going to lay off 20% of my workforce, and I'm going to raise prices.
And I'm going to raise my salary.
Yeah. And all those different things have a chance at boosting the stock price in the coming months, which their salary is also tied to and isn't taxed as much as their regular, not salary, but compensation package. I'm now getting into the weeds, but my point is that like these are people who realize that under Donald Trump, you can loot our system. And that's profoundly, I hate to say this, but we should be really, I don't know, worried, scared, alert. I don't want to say that to people because that doesn't really give people much action of like what to be scared about, what to be alert about, like how to do that. But I mean, like, no, you should be on watch. Seriously.
I wonder how much these, like, I want to say it's like 3 different times so far, this whole tariff thing, but it could be 4. I wonder how much these instances have led to companies doing hella stock buybacks, which I have on the record said is fascism. I
not
want to look that up. I'm gonna like write it down to like look that up.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The way that stock buybacks have usually worked is like, yeah, they'll not necessarily under the pressure of tariffs, but some feigned economic pressure. You saw a lot of stock buybacks during COVID because the prices went down. And so it was a really good deal to like, okay, let's buy back some of our stock. So, supply and demand. If there's less of it out in the market, if there's fewer yerba mates out in the market, if there's less toilet paper out in the market for my COVID heads out there, then all of a sudden you can charge more on it. You can price gouge it. If there's a hurricane that's around and you take all the water out of the market, then a bottle of or like a jug of 2 gallons of water ultimately goes from like, $2 up to $10 potentially. You see this if you're like out in a rural area and you're camping or something, even in normal conditions. So when you buy back your stock, less of that is available on the market and the value of the stock goes up. If the value of the stock goes up, and that is one of the, mechanisms in the compensation package for people who are already rich, that's why Steve Jobs took $1, like, an extremely low salary from Apple, because his salary, the thing you could tax, was $1. His compensation package, which includes, his healthcare, I'm not going to make the joke, his, retirement plan, not going to make the joke, but also the money that he made from the appreciation of his stocks, because the amount of Apple stock he owned, was what made Steve Jobs and his wife, who I believe now owns like The Atlantic or some publication, right? That's what gave them their amount of money. And because we tax capital gains, the amount you make on stocks and ETFs, we tax that differently and frankly much lower than we would a salary you actually do a job for. That's how rich people are able to get around these things. Furthermore, now rich people like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, they take out loans on the value of their stock, and you don't pay taxes on loans. So they're just the richest people in the world avoiding taxes in ways that are legal, but they're like, actually, no, that's not enough for me. I still need more.
The stock buybacks are going crazy right now. Actually, it's going wild.
Drop a link in the private chat.
About that, Bam. A couple weeks ago, there was actually an article written about this. By Citibank alone, there was a prediction that they could claim up to $1 trillion in stock buybacks, the result of Trump's uncertain policies, aka these tariffs, and that's Citibank alone. So that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, they're wilding out. But yeah, going back to just like the whole tariff situation, I like me and Caesar were talking about earlier. Like, it's just I wonder how long it's going to last. And seemingly he left off Mexico. Allegedly left off Mexico, and I guess I don't know what's going on with Canada.
To my understanding, there are certain goods and certain companies that have been exempted, but Canada and Mexico are still facing tariffs in certain cases, right? So
I just wonder like how long it's going to take before some rich people or wealthy, people around Trump, around the orbit, are just like, this isn't really helping us, actually, and you got to stop. Like, find another word, you senile old bastard. Like, find another word to just harp on, because this thing is just, it's not helping anybody except for like a few, like you said, the Vegas people in suits. It's just weird. He's like obsessed with it. It's like, dude, like, can we move on from this thing, please?
Pinkerbell has a great point. The stock market is a barometer of rich guy feelings. The 401k is a scam that got the working class thinking that their class interests are aligned with the wealthy. 100%. This phrase triggers me because of abusive bosses I've had who have you do work but underpay you. The same dynamic applies with removing pensions, a political project to get people off of pensions, which were a self-contained system that, you know, weren't perfect, but one of the main problems with pensions was that there was no way for people at banks to make money charging fees over and over and over again on every single transaction that goes through a pension. So they said, well, what banks can charge on are these new pension-like things called 401ks. And the phrase I hate that as I look back at how some of the history of how these things got implemented was the idea of quote unquote skin in the game. Skin in the game. The idea that you as an American worker who's going up from can't see to can't see, doing your job, coming back home, putting food on the table if you can, putting your kids to bed if you have them, taking care of business that you got to, taking care of family, whatever, saving up a little bit, maybe doing a vacation once a year, if you're lucky in the old style of middle class, right? The idea that that isn't skin of the game, but participating in slot machines for Wall Street is skin in the game. No, that's skin in their game. And workers don't get to control that game, really, right? Like, to the extent that, you know, Target stock has gone down because people are like, okay, no DEI. Do you know who shops at Target? Like regular people, right? It's like people who are too bougie for Walmart, but are still like shopping that way, right? So like, to the extent that you can do these like small boycott things, the people don't have that much economic power, and they have less and less and less by the day as the stock market grows and benefits rich people. I forget the statistic, but it's like 80% of the stock market is owned by like 10% or less of people in the country who participate in it, like of all the stocks. So this is not something where like regular people are participating in this, except for 401ks. And a lot of employers, this whole like 401k match thing, where some employers who have the means will match your 401k every dollar you contribute up to a certain amount, and they get tax breaks off of that. And then other employers who don't have the means will give you a smaller percent match, or, you know, they won't match it at all. And they're just like, take some money already out of your tiny ass paycheck and save it for retirement, and we'll throw it in these stocks. And hopefully some rich idiots don't crash it because they think they can make a buck out of it. And hey, like, there were no people at that point who were like, well, we're going to be greedy running these 401ks, and we're going to put them in places where they're not supposed to be, and we're going to make them less secure because we think we can make a little bit more of a buck or a little bit more money off of it. And if we're wrong, and they're always wrong after a while, these people are going to be up the creek. That's what happened during the Great Recession, when people were about to retire in 2007, 2008, 2009. 2010, they go to pull out their retirement savings, and thousands of dollars that was in there, tens of thousands of dollars that had accrued and, you know, measured in the stock market, like gone.
Yeah, like half of
what?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in Social Security because it is a confined system that is not a speculative asset. It's like we are sometime in this administration, we're getting close to like crypto 401ks.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like they are going to be
Don't tell them, Dan. Don't tell them.
we already have a national crypto reserve. Like Donald Trump has been, and I have to find this video because I just saw it beforehand. He was on Air Force One today, and he had these like gaudy Trump gold cards. The thing he was talking about, like the gold card Visa, where you pay $5 million and you can be from any of Donald Trump's shithole countries. As long as you got $5 million, you can come in and you get the special gold card Visa. It's going to be a pay for play system, and part of that money from the visas, in addition to being a bribe for Donald Trump, it's going to this crypto reserve, and crypto is a speculative asset that's even worse and even less stable than our financial system. So yeah, no, they're still going to like funnel us in, because the more suckers, the more desperate suckers, all of us Americans, who are downtrodden and poor enough and like need a break, it's going to be like, okay, gold's not working on them, silver's not working on them, crypto's not working on them, okay, the stock market. But either way, Andreessen Horowitz and Elon Musk and Cantor Fitzgerald and all these other sort of like companies and the All In podcast guys, like they're the ones who stand to make the most off of this.
Iraqi dinar. Deep cut.
Very deep cut. The Iraqi dinar is actually up like 0.000 like 20 in the past day. The dinar's going up, all right? Get in there.
Well, here's my question. Do you think that these tariffs are going to stick? And if they don't, do you think that Trump is going to do another round of this before the end of the year?
Well, I think, stick is. I don't think this is going to be another occasion where Donald Trump comes back after this weekend. He's like, just kidding, no more tariffs on the entire thing. It's one thing for the United States to elbow Canada and Mexico like your neighbors, but dude, you're uniting Japan, South Korea, and China together on okay, how do we counter them Yankee motherfuckers on the other side of the ocean? And Europe's like, hey, can we get next on that? You are creating alliances that a year ago would have been insane. Japan is constantly looking at China like, hey, yo, can you stop doing these military drills in our the sea right in between us? It's a little bit we already got North Korea right there. Can you tap the brakes a little bit? And
they met 5 years ago. That was the last time they had any kind of joint meeting.
Yeah, I mean, they're not the worst of friends, but they're not the best of friends, right? And
right.
This is not Dan's people's history of East Asia, so I'm not going to go into why the Japanese, the South Koreans, the Chinese, in many different ways, may not like each other historically. But this is, if he were to do, I don't even know how you go dumber than this, but I think getting rid of the tariffs next week would possibly be even dumber, because you already have the point of you've broken the trust of the entire world. If Donald Trump got rid of the tariffs next week, okay, you broke the trust of the rest of the world, and you're a bitch. You couldn't even stick to the tariffs that long. So it's bad for Trump, because then people aren't even going to trust his bluffs anymore. They're going to be like, okay, you know what? It's going to be all the other Power Report hosts when I'm crashing out. They're like, okay, just get in the corner for a little bit. Let's, tap it out. We'll see you next week. It'll be fine, right? It's going to be one of those situations. And Trump's perceived power that he thinks he has, they really came out today, and the Trump administration is like, oh, Israel's already backed down from their tariffs. I'm like, Israel wasn't even supposed to be on the list, dog. Did you not get the memo? and sorry, another thing about I didn't get the point, but people are pointing out that one of the places that was being tariffed is not inhabited by humans. It's an island that is, apparently part of the Australian territories. It's very close to Antarctica, whose main inhabitants are penguins. And another one of the places that was tariffed, I want to say it's Diego Garcia. It's an island, but it's the island that the United States has a military base on, and it's the island that the Houthis were threatening to retaliate against the United States for. And Donald Trump said, essentially, to paraphrase, if the Houthis bomb our base on Diego Garcia, we're going to go to war with Yemen. Either way, we're going to tariff the military base. So,
I'm sorry, it costs too much to build a missile to fight back.
No, we're gonna tariff the dead bodies at the base when you send them back.
Yo, commissary is gonna be a little light, fellas, for the next couple of weeks. All right, we're gonna have to make some cutbacks. It kind of shows the comical unseriousness that I wish I could have around this, but there's also the callous nature of how these tariffs are going.
Right.
There's been some speculation, did they literally just put this into an AI, and because it's AI would make these kind of mistakes.
Right.
Really quickly, I just want to read off the list of the 11 countries that survived this tariff war. It's Belarus, Burkina Faso, Canada, and Mexico. They were the two that originally started kind of this whole debacle. Cuba, Surprise there. North Korea.
Florida vote.
Surprise.
Florida vote.
Palau. Russia, of course. Seychelles. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name.
Seashells.
Somalia, and of course Vatican City, which I had mentioned. Pope Francis.
All of our staunchest allies.
Actually, Somalia is becoming a bigger and bigger ally to the United States. It's very interesting. Burkina Faso is interesting.
No one tell Donald Trump there's black people there.
Oh no, like this Trump is, I think he's like talked about Somalia. There's a lot going on with Somalia these days. It's kind of embarrassing for them, but yeah, like I guess they said like because the sanctions on Russia, like there's no need for tariffs or whatever. And I'm assuming Cuba is the same in North Korea. Like there's already embargo on Cuba. I don't know, but there's also a bunch of countries that do not ship anything to America, I'm sure, that got tariffs. Like, and I'm really interested in Burkina Faso. Like, how did they get off the list? How? Because they're landlocked?
It could be a mineral play because obviously, like Burkina Faso is facing some turmoil and some instability, and it's China's been eyeing some of that area too, and so it could be a potential yoinkaroonie for Donald Trump. Again, like Belarus is one of the Eastern European countries that has been pretty much in lockstep with Putin, so I can see that connection there. Definitely a couple of she sells seashells by the seashore. That country, I like that. There's a couple of curveballs there for sure. I'm sure like maybe we can read on to about, but like I don't even think for Power Report we're going to be doing that anytime soon.
No, we're going deep. So Somalia, no, I'm joking.
Okay. I'm gonna read some comments and then let's see if I'm ready to get in some trouble now.
Wait, before you say that, somebody, maybe one person in the chat will appreciate this. The current season of Below Deck Down Under is in the Seychelles. That's where they are. It's really nice. They got tortoises and shit.
Cultured BAM once again.
It's like right there.
We also said that Russia isn't on the list because of the sanctions. Sorry,
yeah, that's what they said, because there's so much sanctions on Russia. On Russia, they don't need the tariffs.
I've got to. There we go. There was. So James Surle, I'm not going to butcher up the name, so I'm not going to try. He has been he's a contributing writer at Fast Company in the Atlantic. Has been pretty good on some of the stuff, and basically 3 minutes, just 3 minutes of economics math, and then I'm done. Because folks need to know this, because the Trump administration literally tried to play you for suckers. He's like, no, okay, I'm going to show my work here. Here's the equation we use. I'm like, oh wow, you think we're that stupid? And like, there's certain times where the saying about Elon Musk is a smart person until he starts talking about something you're smart about. It's like it was really one of those moments happening in extremely real time where yes. So first of all, the way the tariffs were calculated, because I was mentioning that there was this like, weird math here, and I'll go into it, where Madagascar is doing 93% tariffs on the United States. Like, damn, bro. James mentions it's important to understand. Here. Just brilliant. Because Indonesia has a high tax on coffee imports. Trump is going to put a 32% tax on coffee imports from Indonesia, even though the US exports no coffee to Indonesia or almost anywhere else. He has no idea of the concept of comparative advantage. Comparative advantage is the idea of tariffs are not all bad. Sometimes countries, especially smaller countries, do protectionary tariffs, which means you have an industry that you feel like you've got the right sauce, whether it's the particular
Usually tourism is a big one.
Yeah, in economics classes, you learn guns and butter, but like there's coffee, there's cars, there's any sort of like commodity, there's clothing. And you may want to be like, okay, let's get a lock on clothing. We're Thailand, we're Bangladesh, we're going to get a lock on clothing. So we'll tariff other clothing being shipped in here, and we'll make our clothing really cheap. And so America's done that. Every single other country's done that. The ridiculous equation here, I'm trying to find like the original thing. Oh, there it is. So he goes, I just found out where these fake tariffs come from. They didn't actually calculate tariff rates and plus non-tariff barriers as they said they did. So I'd be like, what are the tariffs that are constantly, being applied to America, plus like, whatever you apply as non-tariff barriers, these other taxes, things like that. Instead, for every country, they just took our trade deficit with that country and divided it by the country's export to us. So I have a 17.9 billion trade deficit with Indonesia. Its exports to us are 28 billion. 17.9 divided by 28 equals 64 or 64%, which Trump claims is the tariff rate Indonesia charges us. Now, let me tell you how, I'm sorry this is a lot, but I need to put this on you. And I watched some of the Patrick Bet-David Sam Cedar thing earlier because I hate myself. And you get all these. Economics is one thing. Finance is another thing. And this is one of the moments where finance bros show their ass because they see the word deficit and they're like, we're losing. Oh, we're losing. Drags knuckles on the floor. We're losing. No. A trade surplus and a trade deficit, those are pretty understandable terms. A surplus means more, a deficit means less. When you have a trade surplus with a country, say Canada, that means you are trading more things to Canada than they are trading to you. If you have a trade deficit, you are trading fewer things than Canada is trading to you. But just because you're trading more or fewer things doesn't mean you're getting a bad deal out of that, because certain countries, based on geography, based on conditions, just can't produce certain things. That's why you don't just have tariffs and trade deficits. You also have deals to say like, okay, we're spending a lot of money, Indonesia, for your coffee or whatever, all right? But we'll give you a deal, or, because we're spending this much money, you give us a deal here because we're consuming enough, and we'll give you, some support here, some aid here, whatever. Like these are trade deals, and trade deals, again, are neither good nor bad like tariffs. It depends on how you negotiate them and what you get out of them. Like, do you win or do you lose out of that? So here's the part that pissed me off. And this is the last bit of math. This is quoting James again. This is truly amazing. The deputy White House press secretary claiming that I'm wrong and that the tariff rates on Trump's chart were calculated by, quote, literally measuring every country's tariff and non-tariff trade barriers. To prove it, he screenshots the formula that the U.S. trade representative says was used to calculate the reciprocal tariffs we impose on other countries. And, this is going to look like gibberish to you unless you are a Greek mathematician. And so I understand that. All right. That's the whole point, is that this is meant to be like, well, see, look, I've got a mathy looking thing here. See, stupid people, I'm smart. Unfortunately, I went to school for economics and I dealt with this equation a lot. And you want to know what this equation shows? It doesn't show tariffs. It's about trade deficits. It's about imports and exports. So what this guy did was say, this is the equation we used. And what James goes is like, yes, you're right. That's the equation you used, but it's not representing tariffs. It's representing trade deficits. And you are trying to tell the American people that because we trade more or less with a certain country, that is equal to tariffs, which is the amount we're being charged for certain goods in a different country. All right. Like, I'm not sure how to make the analogy like clear. It's like, you're not calculating the sales tax on your purchases at the grocery store. You're counting, it's purposely doing the sleight of hand thing. So he says, I don't know if the deputy press secretary is being misinformed or just misleading. Either way, Trump administration didn't do that. As I said, it divided our trade deficit with a country by our imports from that country, and then multiplied it by 0.5, or basically, divided it by 0.5 by saying, like, we're being lenient. And if our trade deficit or imports with a country is less than 10%, or if we have a trade surplus with that country, which means, in this idea of Trump, oh, we're getting screwed over by all these different countries. Oh, these are bad deals. No. This is a case where another country is buying more from us than we are for them. They are giving us more money than we are to them. They still got a 10% tariff. They still got slapped with it. So you said the guy was wrong. You showed him an equation that proves to anyone who's taken an Econ 101 class that you are trying to lie to people. Because there is an equation. I'm not going to bore you with it, but there is an equation for calculating tariffs and figuring out tariffs. This is an equation. Literally, X is the word, is the letter in economics to represent exports. And M in economics is the letter to represent imports. Every time. That's it. Exports, imports. Not a lot to do with tariffs themselves, though. So the idea that the Trump administration shows this equation for exports and imports, and James is like, yeah, that's right. Thanks, dumbass. That's the exact equation I'm using. That's the exact point I'm trying to make, right? Like, you are trying to tell people that grass is actually ice cream.
Well, it's just like, I mean, it's like they're putting this big ass tariff on Lesotho because Lesotho imports diamonds and like jeans to America. What are they supposed to get from America? Like, what is America supposed to be importing to this tiny landlocked country that's surrounded by South Africa? Like, no, like that's the thing. It's like, oh, for them, that's like, oh, it's a deficit and they're charging us, but it's like, no, there's nothing for them to buy from here, but people like to have that bling bling, so they're getting their diamonds.
Here's another thing too, we got to factor in. Trump is, I mean, obviously he's strictly doing this only for his base, right? But it's very much a posturing of America first, kind of eliminating this global ideology that he's always been talking about. I think he's trying to sell this as the end of globalism, right?
He is, and I think he knows, but also some of his base still hasn't caught up, but much of his base has. And I hate to be so crude about these things, but we've seen it time and time again over the past Trump administration, the Republican Party in general. Globalism for a lot of the Republican base is just a substitute for the Jewish elite that control the media and the banks. Like, it's I don't believe that. That is purely anti-Semitic. That's real anti-Semitism. And that's coming from inside of the house. The people who are accusing universities, the people who are accusing Jewish students at universities of being anti-Semitic are the ones saying globalism and globalists and repeating that phrase. It's the Kanye West view of politics, frankly.
Clan suit Kanye or a different one?
God. Sachi, sorry, but yeah. Any other points there?
No, that was it.
No, yeah, that was. I mean, we'll keep an eye on it. It is not unlike a lot of things, where I think, there are things we can do about it. We got to wait and see. The stock market is out of our control. If anything, don't call them tariffs. These are Trump tariffs. You got to say both words with them, okay? Because I don't revel in this at all, but regular people are going to feel real pain that is out of their control. And this is the first time in a long time there's no way they can blame a Democrat on it. They have the courts, they have the Congress, they have the presidency, they have too much of the presidency, frankly. They got Elon Musk as a cherry on top, basically. And they may not even want that cherry anymore, but more on that in a moment. So when you are going out there, viewers of the show, and you're talking to other people, and however combative you want to be or don't want to be, no matter what, call them the Trump tariffs. Don't call them the tariffs. Call them the Trump tariffs.
Call them the Trump taxes
No, actually, even better, call them the Trump taxes because
they hate taxes.
yeah, because tariffs, when you impose tariffs on goods that Americans are addicted to, you're seeing right now, like, car dealers are horny right now because Americans are realizing that now's probably the time to buy whatever car is on the lot right now. Kind of like, kind of the inverse of what was happening during COVID, where car dealers were like, oh, shit, no one's driving, no one's going around anywhere. We got to move these cars. That's where friend of the show, Sean, got his cheap ass Alfa Romeo. But like Chrysler. But it's Chrysler Pacifica with a turbo. But these taxes, I mean, there are certain companies, like I was hearing from the Stater Brothers CEO, they're a Southern California based grocery chain. And it was like, we've already cut back on stores. We've already laid off some staff. We know these tariffs are going to hurt us, but we have somewhat of a threshold to eat the tariffs and not raise prices on customers. Even with those companies, that's going to last about 35 seconds. Then prices are going to go up. Those egg prices are not going to go down. Basic building equipment, basic supplies and stuff. Factories are not going to get built in America. Companies are going to make all these fake Foxconn AI 8K 5G promises like they did during the first Trump administration. Nothing is going to come of it. And at the end of the day, all of these increased prices that suppliers and producers and companies are paying, they're going to immediately pass on to everyday working people. And so, yeah, tariff, Greek mathematics, like, thank y'all for running with me with that. But Bam is totally right. Just call them the Trump taxes, or use them interchangeably because tariff is going to be the word, but they're the Trump taxes, the Trump tariffs, the Trump taxes, whatever. The best thing we can do as people who take these, political content that we watch and take it out into the world is tie the economic hell that these ghouls are about to put everyday American people to, and make sure that just like Trump signed the stimulus checks, that Trump signs all of the pain that people are going to be feeling right now. And everyone with an earshot of my voice, that's your mission.
Yeah. I just hope people remember, dude. Remember. Don't forget.
This is, pocketbooks, people are going to remember. And again, like in the quote unquote best case scenario, maybe in the short term, where Trump next Tuesday decides, okay, these global tariffs are gone, or we're like getting rid of most of them, or we're gonna lay off the Penguins and our own U.S. military base. The Penguins and our own U.S. military base, and like all the other 180 different like countries we put on there, shout out Madagascar, are never gonna trust America again, and they are going to decouple and de-link their economies from America, and it's isolationist. It's the what the rest of the world did to the USSR. Let's crush them. Let's strangle them out. So the United States, or the USSR, no relation, are stuck with breadlines.
It'll be like similar to like the world boycotting South Africa because of apartheid. It's not necessarily because of the person in power. It's because the world can't trust American citizens to not vote for somebody like that. It's like we don't know if y'all are going to do that again. So when Mark Carney said like the relationship with America has changed forever, he doesn't think that Trump's going to be president forever. He's like, y'all might vote for somebody like that again. So we can't go through this. So fuck you guys.
Exactly. Let's stay on domestic news for a little bit because Cory Booker, all up in the Kool-Aid, but he knows the flavor. Cory Booker. There's been a lot of interesting discourse around this. So yeah, now of course, for folks who somehow haven't been paying attention or been living under a rock, Cory Booker broke the record for the longest filibuster ever. previously a record held by Strom Thurmond, noted defender of
Friend
the
of the
rights
show.
of all people. Yeah. Bam's dad, Strom Thurmond.
Probably a Celtic fan.
But no, Strom Thurmond did that day-long filibuster because God forbid black people have civil rights, and all the other people covered by the Civil Rights Act that the current Donald Trump administration is trying to take away. But now Cory Booker has that record, and I think this was an awkward, especially given all the context of how Democrats are, elected Democrats and Democratic voters are upset with Chuck Schumer and the way that he's not fighting enough. It was very interesting and very telling the way that Chuck Schumer and Cory Booker had this exchange during the filibuster. I'll play it here.
Senator, yield for a question.
Chuck Schumer, it's the only time in my life I can tell you no.
That was the telling part where Schumer's like, can you yield for a question? To interrupt the filibuster. And Cory Booker said, this is the only time in my life where I can tell you no.
Is that tap dancing?
That's some real shuck and jive move, Cory Booker. Let me tell you, that's again, Cory Booker, you are trying to fight from the hole you are in of having white ladies volunteer with you with a button that they're wearing that said Cory 2020, he knows the flavor, with Cory Booker's head superimposed into the Kool-Aid man. You are fighting out of that ditch, my brother in Christ. And you're like, sorry, sir, Mr. Master, sir. I would never not answer your question or yield time for you, sir, boss man. But I'm trying to raise some money for the Democratic National Committee, Mr. Sir, boss man. I'm being mean, but no. Defying Chuck Schumer is the move in the Democratic Party right now if you're elected. So the way that Cory Booker wasn't doing this, and also the way that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have taken people like Al Green from Texas, who interrupted the State of the Union, Jasmine Crockett, also from Texas, who's been calling Elon Musk everything but a son of God, AOC, all these other different people who have been actually being warpath Democrats. Chuck Schumer has previously been like, no. Just let things happen, roll over, go inside. The idea that Chuck Schumer is supporting this type of protest, again, that should be a sign if you pay attention to politics or not. If Chuck Schumer allows you to protest, you probably ain't protesting hard enough. Again, if you are protesting and the police are, not even making a perimeter around you, they're eating donuts in their car because it's just you and 5 other people by a Tesla dealership, you probably need 90 more people. There's something more you can be doing if your protest in America doesn't bother anyone. I think it's a flat out point, but pedantics here or there. I'll play the rest of this clip. I will personally be right back, but I'll just let the rest of the clip play through. It's about a minute and a half long, and I'll pause it.
Would the senator yield for a question?
Chuck Schumer, it's the only time in my life I can tell you no.
I just want to tell you a question. Do you know you have just broken the record? Do you know how proud this caucus is of you? Do you know how proud America is of you?
Ladies and gentlemen,
I forgot the clip is mostly applause after that, but
No, you didn't. No, you were messing with it. That's it. Yeah.
No. Once I remembered, I was like, let me skip through this to see if there's anything else. I'm like, no, yeah, this is mostly applause. But the discourse erupted in between, screw the Republicans at this point. This is an inside the house conversation with the Democratic Party, at least, or people to the left of center. The conversation was split between what I less than charitably referred to as C-SPAN perverts and West Wing political junkies, who were like, Cory Booker's so heroic. He broke Strom Thurmond's record and he stood up to Trump and he really took it to them. And everyone else has been like paying attention to politics, like, really closely. And honestly, a different type of perversion. But, at least a perversion that's a little bit more. I'm not even going to say that because I think there's nuance to both points, honestly. But there's a cynicism to this. He's wearing a yellow pin on there, which is, not the same as the Israeli flag, but it's the flag that's meant to, the pen that's meant to represent the hostages that Netanyahu keeps using basically as a ploy, a plot, human shields, if you will, to justify his continued goings on in Gaza. And I'm censoring myself for YouTube, not for reality. But and Sachi, can you bring up some information about the vote that happened today? Because I think this is also really telling context to add here, because a lot of people on the left were like, okay, thank you, Cory Booker, for doing this. I was even willing to say, like, listen, I don't mind you doing a performative protest. Like, there's no votes. There's nothing that, the Stop Oligarchy tour that Bernie and ARC are doing. I do like that it's showing leftists, the furthest left people in the Democratic coalition, going to broke dick Nebraska and bumfuck Iowa and getting these massive crowds out to talk about a kind of wonky term in oligarchy, but people know that's like fuck Elon Musk and the plane he flew in on. But my criticism was like, let's look at what Cory Booker has done before this filibuster and after the filibuster. And this filibuster was on the 1st of April, kind of also the 31st of March. We are at the 3rd of April, and what vote just happened today?
We had the vote, brought forward by Senator Bernie Sanders to block arms to Israel, and 15 Democratic senators, which I'll give them props, voted along with him in that regard, but it failed. I think it was 15 to 83 was the final tally. And of course, guess who voted no? Mr. Senator Cory Booker from the state of New Jersey, who just 2 nights before, or 2 days before you want to call it, said, this isn't about right versus left. This is about right versus wrong. And that's where we're at. I mean, beyond the fact, I'm going to go on a little tangent now. He's been an active, like full throttle supporter of the going-ons in Gaza that Israel's been carrying on.
The troubles.
So it's. I have a lot more thoughts on this, but I'll get to them later.
No, Sachi, throw them all out now. You see how I've run? Just let them fly, dude.
It's just the whole look. First of all, in that speech of that 24-hour marathon, I for some talk about that perversion, Dan. I had C-SPAN on in my house for the entire day. I was watching the whole damn thing. I didn't.
Bam! Don't be like that. I remember you back in the day. You maybe not for Cory Booker, but you'd be rocking that C-SPAN with a notebook a little bit, preparing for the show. So don't be. Okay. Some of those impeachment hearings or some of those like the Kavanaugh hearings, I remember. Okay, so.
Listen, I'm not going to hate too much in season back because it gives you the clear, uncut. You want the uncut version of things, is what it gives you. So that's it. I was watching it, and by like hour 3, I'm like, I don't care. It's already bullshit. But I want to get to the Strom Thurmond part of this real quick. During his speech, not only did he, praise the Reagan-era Republicans, like, where are our Reagans? He even quoted Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall, right? It's this retired, the regurgitated, what's the word I'm looking for? Rebirth of whitewashing of Reagan's image, right? They do the same thing with Bush. Both Bushes, any Republican not named Trump.
Fast forward to 2024 when Kamala Harris is like, we need a strong Republican Party, or was at least part of that crowd of like, I would put a Republican in my cabinet. And I think maybe it was Nancy Pelosi who said the strong Republican Party thing, but that has been the mainstream Democratic message that, oh no, we don't hate the Republicans, we actually want to play ball with them and come to some mutual centrist agreement. Meanwhile, the Republicans just like, I want the Democrats to fucking die. Like it's not the same.
Exactly. And also, Reagan, it goes without saying Reagan is Reagan, but there was a moment where he's like talking about helping Biden write a speech, and just this amazing moment that he had with Joe Biden, and immediately thinking the correlation between Strom Thurmond and the praise of Joe Biden with the context that Joe Biden was practically best buddies with Strom Thurmond in Congress. And not only that, in 2003, when Strom Thurmond died, Joe Biden went over to his funeral and eulogized him for 17 minutes. The whole context is just, so the entire time he's going on about doing good and being better, and the focus that I really get pissed off about, and this thing that liberal voters fall in love with, especially, I hate to say it, it's maybe we, as a collective society, we have an issue with it, but it's this, we kind of burden ourselves, not burden, but like yes, actions speak louder than words, and we have to adhere to that. But I think too often, I don't know if it's short-term memory or if it's just desperation for the moment that we're in, but too often there's letting politicians skate by with their words carrying more weight than their actions, right? Like, there's no denying this is a historical moment. Yes, he broke Strom Thurmond's foot. Good for him on that regard. Like, kicking a racist down the curb is great, even though he's still second place and his name's going to be top 10, which sucks. But
also, let's not assume Cory Booker's not a racist.
Facts.
True.
Again, I think history is going to look very differently. I mean, I almost, weirdly say I know this just because I see the polling of opinions in America and frankly opinions all over the world about the, as Pinkerbell said, the kafia kerfuffle, the Israel-Palestine conflict. I've seen the opinions all over the world. We have a clever audience, honestly. We have clever mods. Shout out Pinkerbell. But we've seen that effect over since October 7th, especially. And history is not going to look very well on people who supported this. And, like Bernie Sanders, as many people on the left will never let me, forget. His hands aren't clean on any of this stuff. But, I would have liked to see, I understand the game he was playing, and this is desperate times, desperate measures, but I would have liked to see Sanders do a little bit of a vote like this beforehand during Biden's administration. But, the dynamics are different in being a Democratic president in office. On the other hand, like, I know Bernie Cox is with the Dems, but you're an independent Jew from Vermont on like one of your last terms in the Senate. Whatever's there, let the marbles hang. All right. Like, just do it, because AIPAC can't come after you. The people have got your back. Like, there's no reason for Bernie to go on. But Sachi, please continue.
No, and it goes even beyond what's happening in Gaza. It's just, first of all, this filibuster. Technically, it's not even a filibuster. I mean, there was no bill on the floor. It was just protesting Trump's actions, which it was. I hate to say it, but it was just, sorry, what were we going to say, Dan?
No, go ahead.
We know this. 25 hours of we know this. Like, we're living.
That's what I was saying. It's like, we know this and filling time, because I kind of my point, like, people on Twitter were mad at me when I, went guns blazing on the whole Cory Booker thing. And, I did it somewhat overboard because that's how social media works. Get people angry. I don't like it, but whatever. I have this show to be a little bit more rational sometimes. But people were replying to that post like, there were this many 1,000 views on TikTok and this many million likes on Instagram and this on C-SPAN. I'm like, oh, God, the tech companies is so broken us. Like, we think that's politics. Because, to your point, Sachi, to the extent that anyone paid attention to any bit of that filibuster, they were already had made their minds on Donald Trump, or they heard about it from one of their liberal friends who had already made their mind about Donald Trump, right? Like, the tariffs and again, I don't wish for economic pain. This is just the reality that's going to happen. The tariffs are going to be heard much louder than Cory Booker's filibuster, just like period, end of sentence. So I need people to stop, like, I've got to do more long form stuff on this too, but like, people need to stop equating the very top of the funnel interface with politics that currently exists in American society, which is content. People need to stop equating content with political persuasion. There's a factor to it. It certainly helps, but that is not breaking through to people the same way you think it is. Like, they already listen to Midas Touch, or they already listen to Ben Shapiro, and they've made up their minds. It's not going to be Cory Booker who changes their mind.
And that's the thing. I was like, today's tariffs, I'm thinking this entire time, there was a react, people were responding to me as well. And also, I'm not going to throw my family under the bus here, but there were members of my family that were like, oh, this is amazing. It's going to make a huge difference. This is leadership. I'm like, the difference is not going to make it to the person who's sitting in the White House right now, who's going to wake up tomorrow and be like, oh, this is bullshit. I'm going to do what I'm going to keep on doing. And these tariffs are an example, right? It doesn't, it's just another, and to your point, Dan, too, like with Bernie's bill, which would have happened when Biden was in office. Like, this is another example of, like, if Cory Booker had gone on and broken this record when Biden was in office, said we can do this now, with the change we can make going forward as Democrats, like, that would have a significantly profound
if Cory
impact.
Booker did a 24-hour filibuster, just like aping Ezra Klein's abundance theory, but like in 2022, then the Dems may have forced a primary and Cory Booker may be president. I'm going a little bit far right now, but I'm saying, like, there's a certain opportunity for these things. And, if it was Jasmine Crockett calling Donald Trump everything but a son of God for 24 hours, then I think even that would have made more of an impact. But Cory Booker has already resigned himself to be a happy warrior, someone who doesn't meet the moment of America in the sense that he still has this, like, optimistic, he still believes in the ideology. He believes in the clergy. He believes in the religion of America, the bootstraps, the shining city on a hill. The Democrats are the left and the Republicans are the right, and somewhere is the correct idea, which is in this magical radical center thing. And no American believes that, and the kind of American who still believes that just needs to be shown something better, right? And this is the moment in the time where more desperately there needs to be, New Deal, Green New Deal style politics. AOC, I get this totally. AOC was just a little bit too early for that. Because now, if she would, if Cory Booker did this sort of centrist thing earlier, and if AOC, if that didn't work and Trump was still president, AOC started doing the Stop Oligarchy tour with the Green New Deal, before Nancy Pelosi had the ability to kill it and go, oh, it's the Green Dream. And before Republicans got all their, Fox News licks all over that, and they were able to build up to the Trump election with that. AOC, and I don't blame her for this, but AOC was unfortunately a little bit too early with that. Because what we need right now is not, us going back to some idealistic vision of America that's mostly been, just propaganda, right? Like, we look at China and Russia with all their very bold posters and sunrise imagery, and we're like, that's propaganda. CNN, American Dream, picket fences, that's the real shit. Yeah, so if what we need is a politician, it can still be done, but you just can't be called the Green New Deal, unfortunately. But that idea of almost what Obama ran on, not just change, but wide-reaching reform. We're not going to just, what Obama ultimately did was, give you Mitt Romney's system for healthcare. No, we're going to reform healthcare in this country. And so by changing all these systems at once, the result is going to be healthcare will be more accessible. It will be more affordable. You will not be denied for pre-existing conditions. You'll have an easier time getting prescription drugs. We're going to reform immigration. So we're not going to you're not going to be able to say, 12 million. You're not going to have this fighting over who came in illegally or legally or temporary protected status or asylum or whatever. And you kind of these backlog of judges filing these cases because, people are trying to get in the legal way and then they leave and then come back. And it's such a backlog. It's such a process. We're not even equipped to do this. And immigration is broken in so many other different ways. The only political, palpable way to deal with it is how Republicans have won on it, which is just keep deporting people. And so what we need right now from the Democrats is not just hot air. We need people to frankly a new story to give people. And I don't want the story to be bullshit. And you can't accomplish everything in this racist ass country, but you can at least give people a vision and say, hey, I ran on this vision. And just like Donald Trump said, hey, I ran as a dictator and they elected me, so let full gas, right? Like AOC. Yes, sorry. Last point. I'll say someone like AOC. I don't think it's going to be her because I don't think she would necessarily win at this point. But someone needs to go. I have a grand vision for the country of prosperity, and we're going to do it by our own bootstraps. We're not going to rely on this inefficient private sector, these leeches on America that we've got right now, and we're going to do it with smart, sorry conservatives, economic planning. Sach, go ahead. And then Bam, after Sachi's done.
Sorry, Bam, I'm taking up a lot of time here. But
I never apologize. I'm going to go grab a drink. I'll be right back.
Just quickly, 2 points I wanted to make was that going back to December, and then it's tying again back to the words versus action, was that when that trip when Yoav Gallant came to DC, and again, make you what you will of the ICC charges, but he had literally been charged by the ICC with war crimes for literally starving children. And any rational person thinks that's disgusting. And this is a criminal that's literally walking into, our city and our country. And what has happened is that Cory Booker literally took a photo with him and posed and is smiling with him. And the thing that really struck me is it's another, this is kind of just like the GOP, the Democrats kind of operate in this style, especially Warhawk Democrats, who preach to us about, again, right versus wrong. Let's get into good trouble, like quoting John Lewis, like doing that while simultaneously funding and arming a psychopath in Netanyahu, who's literally waking up every day deciding to slaughter entire families out of existence. And to be able to sleep with that and have that, I don't know, it's on their conscience. It can be if they're going to do that every day. And it's just where we're at. And this is where I think too, another thing too, last thing I'll say is that Chris Murphy being there for 24 hours as well, that's their 2028 ticket. I was telling you this, Dan, earlier. I think this is what Chuck Schumer's hoping is going to be the case. I think he wants his Barack Obama and Joe Biden 2.0 moment in the form of 250-year-olds. That's what he's thinking.
Two 50-year-olds in the ticket, like an older white guy to steer the ship, and a half white guy to not scare the rest of America. Like, yeah, is the we will win, we won't rest like style of politics you get from Schumer. Bam.
You guys said it all, but how I felt about it, I really did not care. It was basically what you said, Sachi. It's like, good for you, but like this is like political theater for like you and your friends in the Senate. But it is funny. I do have a friend, and she is like middle age, like 50-something-year-old, like white, like Democrat, like liberal, moderate, basically. I guess she's left. She's left of moderate, but like just that kind of like white liberal woman kind of thing. And she was all over it, like it's like, no, I thought it was great. I
have white liberal friends from college who are like my age and younger who are like all over it. And it's not just white liberals too. I think it's
yeah, of course it's not. Yeah. But it was funny because I, for me, it's like, oh, he did that. Like, oh, that's cool. Like, that's cool for him. Like, whatever. I saw a few clips of what he said. It is like so insignificant when it comes to like actual politics and like what's going on in the country. But it's like, okay, like good for you, like, hey,
Yeah, I think my anger, not anger, because that's even putting it too much. My frustration comes from people reframing the argument as oh, well, Cory Booker's doing something, AOC's doing something, Bernie Sanders doing something. I just want people to do something. And like, I think, yeah, the bar is, thankfully, unfortunately, Democrats have brought the bar into hell for us. And so something, air beating air is really the way we're dealing with the Democratic Party right now. But that is, it's like the Bush quote, the soft bigotry of low expectations. And another thing I kind of also said here, like in way early Power Report, like during the 2020 primaries, no politician deserves anything. It was like all these people who were like, Elizabeth Warren deserved to win the primary. Like, no, she didn't. I don't even think Bernie Sanders deserved to win the primary. I think that he had a good trajectory, and I think that a lot of momentum was stolen from him. But no politician deserves shit, dude. It's like, stop.
You gotta earn it.
Yeah, like, and to the extent that I will stand up for like a Bernie Sanders or an AOC, or, you know, I'm mentioning them because they're on tour, and like, you know, Bernie less so, you know, AOC probably not, but you know, they are a popular force for energy in the Democratic Party right now, at least, is because, yeah, I've seen both of their, you know, unclean records, especially around October 7th. And AOC saying, don't worry, guys, Kamala Harris is working day and night diligently on a ceasefire deal with Netanyahu. Like, you know, I don't believe it. And even if it was true, like, it's very disingenuous for her to take the party line on that, because I was very clearly just like the party line. But I guess my frustration has come from people who are trying to equate a lot of different types of resistance as though they're the same thing. And there are people who are trying to equate you know, opportunism and jumping onto a moment, and I called it controlled opposition in my like TikTok response afterwards, or basically allowable protest, which is the kind of dichotomy I was trying to describe with Chuck Schumer earlier, where Chuck Schumer calls out certain members of the Democratic Party for using vulgarity or interrupting speeches. But if you do a West Wing style filibuster for the liberals in the audience, then Chuck Schumer will stand up there with you and do a round of applause, right? Like this,
Right.
Look, my analysis. I'm not calling people stupid, but my analysis covers a broader amount of information, and that's why I come to the idea of like, save your energy for like someone younger. Like, again, Jasmine Crockett, I've mentioned many times, like I am watching her like a hawk when it comes to the Israel Gaza stuff and the AIPAC thing, because I know she's compromised in that sense. But because she's basically calling Elon Musk a bitch boy every couple of days, I'm like, you know what? And she's also relatively newer. Like, again, she was in her 50s and had been an incumbent for a decade or so. I'd feel a little bit differently because there's a lot more of a record there. But Jasmine Crockett could pivot, and she could maybe even prove to, you know, outlast AIPAC. I mean, that's a tall order, but there's a chance of pivoting for her at least, right? Like I see these people as like not put there for a reason. And I could be proven wrong there, right? But like there's an amount of fight that's right for this moment. Like I said, Robert Garcia saying with Elon Musk got to bring a gun to a gunfight, and then him receiving a threatening letter from Donald Trump's DOJ and Elon Musk saying apologize and clarify, and Robert Garcia saying kiss my nuts. Like that is, yeah, that whole response was not, you know, would have been too inappropriate for the West Wing on NBC in the 90s, but we're not in the 90s. We're not on TV. Aaron Sorkin, thank God, doesn't write our politics. We are in this moment right now where, and it's like, I guess, second to last point on this for me, people who have been on the ground, like during Black Lives Matter or organizing space and things like that, in any sort of, you know, organizing, especially, you know, Israel-Palestine stuff right now, they know the difference because we have the instinct to see what is performative versus what is, you know, like genuine. And a lot of times you can't tell just from the performance. You need to see a candidate or a person in a number of different contexts and a bunch of different audiences to see, does their message change? Are they speaking differently because they're in one you know, building of people, and they say a different thing about the same thing to another group of people? Now, there's something about tuning your message to an audience, but if you compromise your message with one audience to another audience, you end up being Gavin Newsom, greasy Gavin, and even Democrats start to hate you. So this is kind of speaking from there. I lied, 2 more points, but I'll do the last one at the very end. The last point I will say is that I do want some of my leftist friends out there to see some of what the liberals are saying. There was a chart I want to try to pull up really quickly. Hopefully this is right. But basically it's all of these. Yes, I found it. Or no, maybe I didn't. Shit. But basically there was a chart that just came out that showed a lot of where the new media attention is going right now. And this goes along with kick your pundits, let's say, my every 4-year ritual being done on here, where we think about the pundits who have been helpful or harmful to the cause overall. And I'm sorry I don't have the chart up right now, but basically what you're seeing is the shift happening more broadly, where liberals who have been, disenfranchised or disenchanted with the media they've been watching over the past several years, like they realize, oh, I'm outgrowing MSNBC, I'm outgrowing Pod Save America. You're seeing, Midas Touch is now beating Joe Rogan as the top political podcast in the country, which is beating Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro. And Midas Touch are straight up former Republicans, but that is the entryway for, disenchanted moderates and conservatives, right? Kyle Kulinski, who I've criticized a lot on the show, gained 250,000 new subscribers just in the first 3 months of the Trump administration, right? The Majority Report, no thanks to Sam's Jubilee interviews, also gained 100,000 subscribers. Our numbers are going up for, our scale, they're going up pretty healthily. That is to say, to leftists, to my leftist friends out there, this is a moment where a lot of us might remember ourselves coming along this political journey. I went from watching MSNBC and CNN to Dylan Ratigan to the Young Turks to many other things, and ultimately kind of going on my own along with my own college process and outgrowing a lot of left media, honestly. But we have to, if we're going to be better than the liberals we love to chastise, if we're going to do more than just yell on the internet and, never have any friends and never build actual coalitions, we're going to have to look at opportunities to where we can bring people along, where we can go, yes, Cory Booker's speech got a lot of attention. It was inspiring for people in a moment where there's not a lot of hope. And we can't let that be what we hang our hat on. We need to look at the issues. We need to look at, okay, how consistently is Cory Booker going to do this? Is he going to just, is it going to be self-serving speeches for his own fundraising? Or is it going to be other forms of protest? My last point, I don't feel great about that last point because to go back to the Axios interview article we were talking about earlier about Bernie Sanders' proposal for Israel aid.
Why they do his hair like that? They didn't have to do that to him, dude. He's looking like the dude from Sonic or Mega Man or something. God damn.
Sanders, Durbin from Illinois, Heinrich of New Mexico, Hirono from Hawaii, Lujan from New Mexico, Kane from Virginia, Kim from New Jersey, Ed Markey and Warren from Massachusetts, Merkley from Oregon, Tina Smith from Minnesota, Brian Schatz also from Hawaii, Chris Murphy from Connecticut, and Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, and Peter Welch from Vermont. Those are people who really stuck their neck out on what is a really hard vote. No Republicans supported the measures. Here are the Democrats who voted up in opposition to that. John Ossoff, Jack Reed, John Hickenlooper, Mark Warner, and Cory Booker. Now, Cory Booker is up for re-election in 2026. He is taken upwards of $700,000 from AIPAC. That tells me that he doesn't believe, and we don't have time, and I'm going to spare him. The forward article that's been going around about how much Cory Booker's former rabbi hates Cory Booker, and says that Cory Booker lost all respect for me when he signed the Iran deal under Obama and when he voted for that. All right. So like that is where Cory Booker's bread is buttered. I'm not just, I'm not trying to get anti-Semitic here. Like he has influences from groups that believe in, Jewish supremacy in the Middle East, frankly, right? He also has support. He's in New Jersey from a lot of people who make New York City worse, like big tech, Wall Street, all these other.
He got $100 million from Facebook when he was the mayor of Newark.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people from Newark who are like, "Oh, I remember you as mayor. You're a little bit of a social climber, and you don't really care about what's going on here, right?" So, I think we have to hold these two things at the same time, and as leftists, we have to know when to put our foot on the gas with some of these things, and when to have these like things in our back pocket, versus when to meet the baby leftists where they're at and go, "Yes, Cory Booker and Al Green and all these other people are in a, spirit of fighting against Donald Trump and standing up against Donald Trump. Let's also use that opportunity to say Chuck Schumer is not. And Chuck Schumer has been behind the scenes yelling at people for standing up. And you don't have to go into that dichotomy of Chuck Schumer and Cory Booker playing nice, but don't waste the moment of someone being happy with the Cory Booker thing to immediately squash them down if they are just waking up to what's going on, right? I think it's a good opportunity, and this is what I would do in person. If someone's like, "Oh yeah, I really like the Cory Booker thing," after going through all of this week and all of this discourse, I would be like, "Yeah, that was a really good thing. I'm really glad that he's one of the few Democrats who's actually standing up, because we need more of that." And I would yes and that, and try to foster that relationship and that kind of like thinking. And you'd be surprised how quickly you can get to that person seeing the light on, yeah, actually Chuck Schumer is holding the party back. Yeah, actually I am liking these other fighter Democrats more. Versus doing the thing we've been conditioned to do by the anger machines that are the algorithms that run on social media, and like try to get the dunk in, try to get the post in or whatever, because it's not the same as building real politics, and this is time to get serious. And another thing, no, that's my last point. Sachi, you can round us out with that.
I would give Tim Kaine credit for voting against that, and I'm kind of shocked. I would give him credit, but when he was running with Hillary Clinton, he let Pusha T interview him, and I just can't get over it. I cannot get over that. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life, and I'm still mad about it. Tim, thank you for the vote, but I'm still mad about that.
Was it as bad as the hot sauce in the purse? Who said that?
She's from the South. I'm gonna give her that. That's fine. But having Pusha T with his slave braids interviewing Tim Kaine, this fool literally never talked about anything other than selling dope. I'm like, what are we doing here, dude?
No. My favorite moment in all of politics was Tom Steyer dancing to Blow the Whistle or whatever in South Carolina.
Didn't you used to play that on here? You used to play it, I think.
The wheels, honestly, until COVID depressed me, so I got a good month of mileage out of that. But yes.
Oh, that was great. I forgot about that.
Yeah, no. It was Tom Steyer dancing to Back That Ass Up.
Wasn't Juvenile on the stage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Juvenile in South Carolina, and I was like, I think that's the last time I've ever felt
I think we should watch that video and end the show there.
Yeah, it's the last time I felt genuine joy in politics, frankly.
I forgot about that.
No, Dan, I'm just going to say, I think you're right. To close it out, as somebody who shouts a lot on the algorithm, that's something I got to do and work on myself as well. But I think we talked about this post-election a little bit. You're going to have a much easier time talking to your liberal friends about the policy, because they actually, even though they don't really maybe think on it too much, they actually do think about the policy, right? They pay attention to the policy for the most part, at least the surface level policy. And you can steer them in that direction to kind of go underneath the surface and be like, hey, that bipartisan bill that they passed, here's the shady elements to it. So when your Democratic senator does this, make sure you're paying attention to that. And I think that's, again, like you said, that's what we got to aim for. So as much shit as I gave Cory Booker and people who were, maybe falling in love with it too much, you're going to have a lot easier time steering them in the right direction.
I'll give Cory Booker the last word with the note that he's on record for saying this during his filibuster that the liberals love so much. So I think even in the best faith, it is a responsibility that we can have to remember these words and hold him to these, whether it's his apparent senatorial run in 2026 or his apparent presidential run in 2028. Let's hold him to these words.
Nay, need. Behold, Lord, here I am. And so I confess that I have been imperfect. I confess that I've been inadequate to the moment. I confess that the Democratic Party has made terrible mistakes that have given lane to this demagogue. I confess we all must look in the mirror and say we will do better. And it's not just defining ourselves what we're against. We, the next generation, as the baby boomers are leaving the stage, the last baby boomer president, we have to say that we're going to redeem the dream. We're going to dream America anew. We're going to start talking about bold things that don't divide people, that unite people. Bold things that excite the moral imagination of a country to do better, to go higher, that call us together. This is the time where new leaders in our country must emerge. I'm not talking about senators. I'm talking about citizens.
That's enough, Cory Booker. I can't listen to him. He's just so phony and actor. I can't listen to it. I'm about to cry voice. I can't do it, dude. Shout out to you, Sachi. You had it on. I'm just
Play Cory Booker. Play Cory Booker in the Cory Booker biopic. It's Cory Booker.
Literally, dude. It's just I would admit. Dude, stop, dude. Just talk regular, dude.
Call me Rosario. Call me.
Yeah. I'm not going to say what they were saying about their relationship. I'm not going to say it.
Notice me, senpai. And I know. I want to get into our fun conversation really quickly, but I want to, even before that, touch on lost my vape this week, which has been tragic. I had that baby for 2 years, but it's the Elon Musk pack watch. Is it Elon Musk pack watch time? Because I want to play this clip from friend of the show, J.R. Jackson, really quickly, to highlight what's the quote from Arrested Development? I may have committed some light treason. Of course, as folks know, Elon Musk went to Wisconsin to try to put his thumb on the scales of yet another election, this time a smaller state level election. There are a couple of bills on the ballot. One of them had to do with voter ID laws. Because you have this fake idea that, Gavin Newsom's over there in California telling illegals that you don't even need ID to vote. When it's dumbass. When you register to vote, you have to give them your social security number or your state license. Now, it's true. You can get a federal level social security number as an undocumented citizen, and you can pay taxes into that, or someone who's doesn't have full legal permanent status, and you can pay taxes into that, but you can't take anything out. They know who you are in the system because they gave you the number. Same with your ID. You can use that ID to drive. You can't use that ID to prove your citizenship. If you try to do that, then they will catch you because your ID is tied, your name is tied to that ID, and you'll be committing voter fraud. It's that simple, but it's a lie from apartheid Clyde. You see it. Elon Musk goes into Wisconsin. What he really hit the prize for him was really the truly pettiest shit ever. Tesla's original model was, we're not going to do dealerships. Everyone hates dealerships. They're scummy. They're kind of grimy. They're evil. Totally relate. One of my friend's moms just got scammed into buying a Mini Cooper earlier this week. Dealers suck generally, but Elon was eventually Tesla's the anti-dealer company. And then because of these, frankly, monopolistic rules about how dealers can exist, he wasn't allowed to open a Tesla dealership in Wisconsin. And so he was trying to buy a judge and get him on the, court so that he could have another judge, just like he has in the, in Texas, that's favorable to Elon Musk and his business ventures. And so he does all these presentations where he's like telling all these lies about the supposed inefficiencies that Doge has discovered. He does the sweepstakes where if you quote unquote sign a petition to get out of the legal issues from this, then you will be entered into a raffle to get $1 million, which sounds like pay for play, buying votes, which you're not allowed to do, which, Elon's brazen and doesn't believe the rules apply to him, but he did it anyways. But there's an ad that was up and then briefly went down, but people caught it and were able to bring it back up, and thankfully JR caught it as well. And the last time I talked with JR, when he was on PowerPort, I asked him the question about how is he going to work in this administration and how is he going to approach news. And what he said that stuck with me is show and tell. With that, let's do some show and telling with the Republicans' reaction to most of basically the Elon Musk crown jewel in that court seat getting rocked, but a lot of Elon Musk's money going down the drain and all that. But this piece is very interesting. Watch for the whole 30 seconds here.
Really personally and professionally disappointed that Judge Schimmel lost to Judge Crawford. I think that we saw a ridiculous amount of money come in to this election. The Democratic Party is buying another justice, as they have accused us of, and it's simply not true. She is bought and paid for by the Democratic Party.
My name's Ekaterina Diesler. I'm from Green Bay, Wisconsin. I did exactly what Elon Musk told everyone to do. Sign a petition, refer friends and family, vote, and now I have $1 million.
And mind you, that last 15 seconds was, someone who had won Elon Musk's campaign. The other one, interestingly enough, was an organizer for college Republicans in the state of Wisconsin. So, random chance. But she said words that would make any election lawyer in the state of Wisconsin bricked, which is in order. I did what Elon Musk told me to do. I signed the petition. I got my friends to vote. And in the end, I got $1 million. That's a wrap. I mean, these would thankfully be out of the federal jurisdiction. This would be the state level jurisdiction for any sort of election rules you're breaking. But I think the fact, and that was an original ad that, Elon Musk had retweeted, and people from the Elon Musk's team, I'm not sure if it was America PAC or whatever, they had posted this, or someone I think affiliated with them had posted this as a victory thing. And again, it was we may have committed some light treason and admitted to it in 4K. So the second version that came up that I think is still floating around doesn't include the vote part, because that ties it too closely of, I did what Elon wanted me to do and voted his way, and I got $1 million check. That's too on the nose in 4K Ultra HD. So they took that part out, but the internet never forgets. I think I just want to get y'all's quick thoughts on the dynamic here, because after, Elon, again, rich people tripping over their dicks is probably going to be the most fun we're going to have over the next 4 years. But Elon really did it. He's like, oh, I'm unbeatable. I'm the Doge guy. He went to Wisconsin and he's been threatening Republicans by saying, if you stand up against me, if you stand up against Trump, I will fund your primary challenger with my unlimited amount of money. Elon spends his unlimited amount of money, and Wisconsin, which shifted very red, not even just in the 2024 election, but in the 2024 election, not even 6 months ago, to now every county has gone repulsingly in the other direction blue. Like repulsed by Elon Musk so badly that every other county went blue. In Florida, where there are some other special elections to replace Michael Waltz, everyone's favorite signal leaker, and Matt Gaetz, everyone's favorite, to replace their seats. Those were like Republican red plus 15 districts. And the Republicans still won those, but by very slim margins. In red Florida, like the panhandle of Florida. Again, you're seeing like midterm backlash numbers 3 months into the administration proper, like 5 months since the election. Dude, the streets ain't feeling it. The suburbs ain't feeling it. Whitey ain't feeling it. Like, so yeah, I want to get y'all's comments on the results that we got there.
I just know that there were people that like entered that raffle that still did not vote. They were just like, oh, $1 million. Okay, but I'm not going to do that. I don't, a judge, who cares? I'm trying to get this $1 million, dude.
Yeah. I think really this was test number 2 for Elon. This is strike 2 in terms. Oh, strike 1. Yeah, I don't know if he had strike 1. Well, Trump would. He got Trump the election. So you're on mute, Dan.
That's where it's like, Trump's always like, he's annoying as hell and he like won't get away from me. Like we heard all the stories of like he would just lurk around Mar-a-Lago and invite himself to dinners and be like,
I'm the video of that.
We do?
I mean, like in general, but like
yeah.
He's hanging out with his kids. Like Elon's trying to get his kid inside of the frame for a photo with Trump, and his kid's trying to run away. It's like it's a whole thing.
He called himself like the first buddy or something before even Doge. Just like it's all this like really cringe stuff. You know, like Donald Trump is sundowning, but he knows a bitch when he sees one. Like he's got that Queens in him still. All right, so like he is also. I think that was fine. He's like, it's whatever. He's bankrolling. I got a lot of money. Like he's just helping me get richer. Whatever. He understands that you can fool the rubes, and you know he knows how to work a cold of idiots. Sure. Like there's something you respect about him. Strike 1 was him big dogging during the cabinet, and Trump having to break up all these different fights between Musk and I won't even say other cabinet members because he's barely a cabinet member. But you're hearing all the things about like Trump having to play intermediary between Rubio and Musk. And Trump, Trump would like to just sit in his golf course and literally let them fight. Sit in his golf cart and literally let them fight. But no, he's having to, he's having to play middle manager, right? Like he's having to play kindergarten babysitter with Elon Musk too often. That is strike 1. This is overall like he's rich, but I actually fucking hate the guy because no one likes the guy. Strike 1.5, he smells and doesn't look good on TV. And Donald Trump likes appearances and like looking good on TV. Definitely strike 2, and this is probably the biggest strike of all, was being so visibly repulsive in Wisconsin that everyone was like, no, I want him, like once he put on that cheese head, like that's a wrap. Like, dude, we're done. And Trump, the thing he hates possibly even more than his own kids is the stench of failure. And that's why you saw the Politico leaks, whether that like, yeah, Elon Musk, we're going to wrap this up. And then people, there's been a lot of quote about like, okay, Elon Musk's special government employee thing, like you can only do that for 6 months. So there's a little bit of a clock there. Tesla shareholders would really like him to focus on the company. So there's maybe a little bit of a clock there. What you last heard in Politico this week was that Trump and Elon had a conversation about, they're going to be winding things down. It's almost like a couple who's like, trying to still be friends afterwards because one of them has money. And yeah, there's definitely trouble in paradise there, which I want Elon out in the sense that, choosing my words carefully here, he's already done a lot of damage, and once he's like out of the public eye, the data that he's stolen from the government to possibly train his AI on to possibly try to like set us all up with X bank accounts through our social security numbers. Like, I don't know what's going on there, what he'll get away with, but at least some of the uncertainty with someone like Elon Musk not being there is like promising. I mean, you don't know either way. Like, is his replacement someone who's, less popular, therefore harder to scapegoat, but still is evil and trying to cut Social Security and Medicare and all these other different things from behind the scenes? Possibly. It could really go either way, but I just when the day comes, or especially if it's abruptly, Elon's going to be pissed because he's going to take it to his ego. And if Trump and Elon start like fighting more publicly, and we get back to what I've made my new Twitter bio for personal safety reasons, that photo from the first Trump administration of Trump sitting smugly at the desk and Elon Musk standing very stiffly next to him, and Trump posted that thing on Truth Social, basically saying like, whether it's subsidies for his electric cars that are cheaply made, or subsidies for his rockets that go nowhere, Elon Musk would drop on his knees and beg if I told him to. Like, we're getting closer to that version of Trump, which I can be like, okay, I hate you 1% less.
The thing is though, like, and I said this from the beginning, like, it's hard to know who really is more powerful between the two. Like, and even if Trump is like more powerful, Elon has a lot of power. He's the richest person in the world. Granted, like, a lot of that money can go away if the federal government says so.
There's two ways that money can go away. The federal government and governments around the world can just stop giving him contracts. You saw that with Canada. They were like, wait, we were going to do what with Starlink? No more, no mas. And like I said in the tariff conversation, the reason a lot of millionaires and billionaires are very, removed from this is because they don't pay a lot of taxes. They found all the loopholes. Elon Musk's wealth, we know this, comes from loans that are based off of Tesla stock. Now, not only is Tesla stock falling because of the tariff stuff, not only is Tesla stock falling because everyone around the world hates Elon Musk and no one's buying their cars. Not only is Tesla stock falling because, frankly, Tesla hasn't innovated in their EVs since 2018. They just like redesigned them and promised you vaporware cars like the Roadster 2 and a working Cybertruck that can't even do the off-roading that a 2001 Hummer H2 can. But because Elon Musk's wealth is based off of Tesla stock, and he used Tesla stock to finance Twitter, if it goes below a certain point, you get a really nerdy finance word that gets me bricked up. Finance phrase, rather, margin calls. That's when all the people who have been giving him loans said, okay, if the stock price falls below this, that means that you, Elon Musk, are over leveraged and his banks will become mafia. Like, all the people who've been giving him money, all those bankers, they're gonna be like, okay, Elon, where's the fucking money? They're gonna be repoing his jet on TikTok. Like, it's gonna I think that's not likely to happen, but we're headed very fast in that direction, and that would be a very funny way for Elon Musk to, in addition to losing the contracts, in addition to losing his sandy, in addition to every one of his kids hating him publicly, that would be the thing that really gets at Elon Musk's power, and then he can go out like Howard Hughes.
I think if those margin
politically,
I think if that starts getting close to that, then you'll see him right in Saudi Arabia
or Mars. I mean, could happen. Could happen. Another funny thing to this, you kind of touched on a little bit, Dan. I'm going on a side note here, and after this, I should probably actually go to bed because I'm dealing with a little bit of a cough too. But the Florida elections was, even though it was a successful win for Republicans, like you said, I think also the numbers, by the way, when Trump won was plus 30, might even be more than plus 15, unless I was mistaken. But DeSantis was talking about this. Randy Fine won in Florida, and that guy is creepy as hell because he's, if you think AIPAC, by Cory Booker or whatever, this guy is like, oh, AIPAC didn't buy me, they got me for free. That's what he literally said on Twitter, which was like,
I'm sorry, don't be any politician and like give it up that quick, dude. Like, know your worth, please.
He was like, stop, you had me at hello. But the funny thing about that is freaking DeSantis, even he was like, this infighting going on between the GOP. We're also seeing it play out with Rep. Luna, but that's another story. DeSantis was like, this guy's a squish. He he was attacking the Second Amendment. He is, we won big time in all these with all these numbers in this state. And Randy Fine comes along and he just screws it all up and only wins by how many points, right? You're starting to see, I don't want to say it's completely breaking, but Elon being the big indicator of it all, the MAGA concrete start to find the cracks in it, right? And
no, this is Florida. The MAGA concrete's slowly becoming a sinkhole.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point. So, and also with regards to Elon, though, I think this we're seeing now too the perils of latching yourself too much onto MAGA to the point where you become essentially Trump's side. Your identity becomes Trump, but when he discards you, like you're done. You're people are going to forget about him. MAGA people are like, oh, he's gone. We can worry about Trump now. Like this is our God. We don't have to worry about dark MAGA anymore. Or, who cares what he has to do, what he has to say? They're not even care about his money, which is the interesting thing too. But if he goes, he goes, and good riddance.
If he dies, he dies. I'm quoting Game of Thrones. Politically. I'm quoting Game
Anyways,
of Thrones.
that was my final thought.
Sachi, thank you very much for joining, exiting and dumping out conveniently before we talk about Black colleges and universities.
I was really curious. I really wanted to know how you feel.
I see. No. I'll give you the East Coast excuse this time. See you in the playoffs. I say as if we'll even make it past the first round. But
all right, y'all.
Clippers. Yes. Take care.
Thank
you, Sachi. Yes. Let's get to this story because I really, again, trust me, this is not going to be more white lefty bashing. This is actually going to be a broader sort of like conversation about systems and things, right? And my
it's a blackie bashing, I would imagine.
We'll see. So there's been this discourse. This is I don't pay for a New York Times subscription, and I'm not going to anymore. But this is from an article that was originally posted in the New York Times. The Philly Tribune has a non-paywalled version of it, so shout out to y'all. But the story goes: at Black colleges, a stubborn gender enrollment gap keeps growing, and a lot of Black creators that are like left of center, not all of them I genuinely agree with all the time. Jamil Hill, for example, but have some thoughts. They've been talking about this, so I'll just read out. Before stepping on Howard University's campus, Skylar Wilson knew she would see more women than men, but how many more stunned her? Howard, in Washington, D.C., one of the most elite historically Black colleges and universities in the nation, is only 25% men and 19% Black men. Howard's not unique. The number of Black men attending four-year colleges has plummeted across the board, and nowhere is this deficit more pronounced than at historically Black colleges and universities, or HBCUs. Black men account for 26% of the students to HBCUs, down from an already low 38% in 1976, according to the American Institute for Boys and Men. There are now as many non-Black students attending HBCUs as there are Black men. Now, historically Black colleges and universities are not DEI schools. This is
Wait, what do you mean by that?
No. I mean that because in 2025, not one in this audience, but once the video gets clipped and into whatever algorithm it goes into, I need to explain this. Historically Black colleges and universities existed because your Cornells and your Princetons and your Howards and your Grambling States. I mean, Grambling State's a little bit more of a Black school, so I'll give them a pass. But like even your non-prestigious state schools and community colleges would not allow Black people in there, even if they were qualified. Frankly, when they were overqualified, that were not allowed into these colleges and universities. And these are engines for gaining knowledge, whether it was in the past it would be like, administrative skills, like work in an office and handle things with paper before there are like a lot of computers, or physics and science and law and history and all the other things you learn in any sort of liberal arts colleges. And by the way, they teach sciences at liberal arts colleges because we live in hell and people don't know this shit. But yeah, like that's the reason why HBCUs exist. And there are historically, I think there are a couple of like Latino like schools that kind of exist like that, but the HBCUs is like it's a full-on institution here. And so for a lot of people, especially in the South, for a lot of Black folks, like that is the ticket to the middle class. Well, like whatever we call the working class, but you can still afford barely an apartment in a somewhat nice area in a desirable city class, whatever we call that now. But yeah, like it says, this decline has profound implications for economic mobility, family formation, and wealth generation. And some of the discourse I've seen outside of this is like, and I'm kind of quoting here, so bam, don't get on me for this, but an observation that I've seen somewhat of, but I'm not sure if this is like also very hyped up by social media, but I think also it may play a role. But there are, I almost hesitate to say this, but again, I'm quoting other people, but I hesitate to say it because this shit was said like when Bam and I were kids, frankly. So because of that, I'm not sure this is the best analysis, but there's this idea that Black men see the only way into economic mobility as athleticism or entertainment.
Okay.
Right? Like it's this idea that, and it's like, and let me be clear, like not Black men, but like Black boys. Like in middle and high school, they're like, oh, I don't want to be smart in class because then I'm perceived as not cool. I'm perceived as like not Black enough, which is definitely a dynamic that existed when I was younger for sure. I'm sure still does. And, on social media, there's a whole like YN thing, but I don't blame that.
Define it. What are those? What do those initials stand for? Say it. Who are the YNs, Dan?
Your news hosts, Bam and Dan. That's what it is. Your news hosts. That's what it is. The
Tinkerbell. What are the YNs?
And to the DEI point, just really quick. Also, Howard, by the way, estimates that the cost of attendance for undergraduates easily exceeds $50,000 a year, which is, cheap for a lot of the other bigger schools. Like USC just announced that USC's never been like a bastion of affordability in the college space, but they're just cracking 6 figures for undergrads starting. I went to the University of California, which gives subsidies to students in California, and I think tuition a year when I was going was like $15,000 a year. So, big deal, like a good deal on my end, but like that is, you're seeing a lot of these different dynamics. And what's coming into is, I think what this hit me is that in spaces I've worked, and for my off of camera day job, I enjoy most of where I work and I enjoy the people I work with, but the Black staff, we have a good amount of Black staff. Or at least I started to notice that, oh yeah, like most workplaces, this place is really white. This place does make an effort to hire Black people, and you have to be decently collegely educated to work at the place I work at. And a lot of the people who are, Black who are here are white. And I, as a Black man, kind of few and far between, even in this medium-sized organization. And I think there's an issue of kids not seeing enough, Black men specifically, not seeing enough of people in the professional space. There's that sort of like weird stigma you get of knowing shit and learning shit. I remember because I was British and coming back from America back and forth, whenever I'd be back in America and I'd be kind of like in my more like quote unquote inner city environments around Black people from LA, they'd be like, oh, you talk white, you talk funny. And that would automatically be like an ostracizing thing. So like that definitely exists there. But what I don't want to do is make this like a where are the fathers? If only they stopped listening to the rap music and all this stuff, because like I really some of the discourse has gotten really adjacent to that, and I look at this as okay, well, what systems do we have? Like, why are all of these depictions of the worst of Black boys and Black men in society what is what always gets pushed up to the top in our media, in our, you know, what we perceive? And we know why. There are systems for that. Why is it that Black men, and, you know, Black women as well, but definitely Black men, have a harder time making it in these institutions that were fundamentally both built on their backs historically and built to break their backs continuously and institutionally? I'm reminded of a documentary of James Baldwin in San Francisco talking about like Southern racism. They're racist to your face. Coastal racism, they won't like kill you with a rope and a noose, but they'll kill you with the pen. They'll kill you with the laws. They'll kill you with the regulations. They'll do all those different things. They'll redlining, racist housing covenants that affected more than just Black people, but definitely Black people in America. Like all of these things, you know, the institutional racism that Republicans love to say doesn't exist, never existed, can't possibly exist. These are the ramifications of it. And I know you've stayed mostly out of this discourse, but like that's kind of me going out of it. At least like the online part of the discourse. I explained this to you, and like maybe you've like kind of paid more attention to it since then, since I brought it up to you this week. But I'm curious about like your thoughts about it overall.
Well, no, this has been in the culture for a long time. Like I think I mentioned that. Like I've been seeing this been talked about for a minute. Like, you know, I think that because most of the HBCUs are in the South, obviously Howard's in DC, but most of them are in the South. And in the South, you do see a lot of like Black middle class, upper middle class, and wealthy people. Like that's not something that's like not absent in the South. So it's hard to say like, why is it that more and more Black boys are choosing to not go to those universities? I don't know if they're choosing to go to non-HBCUs. Like maybe they're just like, I don't want to just go. Like maybe they look down on the HBCUs and are like, no, I want to go to University of Alabama instead of Alabama State, or Auburn instead of Alabama A&M. That could be part of it. Or it could be like a mixture of like what those things that's like, you know, is it a product of the media that gets pushed on young Black kids? You know, there's a lot to say. It's hard to know like exactly when you're talking about like the content young people consume. Like it's hard to really say the influence it has. Now, I'll be honest. Did that stuff have an influence on me when I was like in high school? It did. Like it absolutely did. Like the rap that I listened to definitely led me to make decisions that I did not need to make them. And if I would have got caught, it would have been bad for me. And it was a direct result of Pusha T.
It always comes back.
But like that's just me, and it's anecdotal, so I can't say like how much it's influencing. But
I'll add go ahead. I was gonna say I'll add the context that I've heard some counselors speak about this. You know, like the few, the proud. Like it was a Black counselor at my school who said, no, you don't need to be applying to art schools. You need to be applying to like Ivy Leagues, which might have been a really good, like a pivotal thing for a Black adult to say to me at that time. Because yeah, I was thinking about more arts, music, that kind of deal. I would have been great at that. And I wouldn't have been able to bore a couple hundred people late at night about Greek mathematics. I wouldn't have that skill, but you know, what some of the counselors have been saying in all this discourse is, yeah, a lot of this, the perception of going to college, this idea of, oh, I'm going to get into all this debt. Why don't I just do a trade or whatever? And, some people are doing trades. A lot of people aren't. You're getting the sense of, oh, I'll just be an influencer, or I will just be I'm a work the streets. I will become an athlete. I will become a rapper. Like,
I'm trapping. I'm gonna start scamming. It'd be like that.
And the other thing, and I really hate, because you see the manosphere shit bleed into this as well. Because on the one hand, to this college thing, you have a bunch of, upwardly mobile, college educated Black women who are like, okay, where are the eligible Black men? like where is someone who is on my level, socioeconomically, on education, and that doesn't mean you're stuck up in your Carlton Banks, right? Again, like, go to a party near Howard, you see what I mean. There's a dichotomy there. But yeah, I think there's what those counselors are saying, just to provide that context of, like, because we're kind of saying, like, I don't know exactly what's happening. These counselors are, I think, seeing that, like, Black boys both get it somewhat in their lives, even if they're not putting all the $5 college words to it. Like, they see how, okay, I know what it's like for people in my neighborhood and people who look like me to get to a certain age, and I see the decisions that are in front of me. There's a part of that, and that's always existed. There's the culture, and like, oh, this is cool, this is not. Like, why go to college and get in debt when you can just flip a key real quick? Like, like, there's so much of that there, and that comes with poverty. That comes with a lack of access. That comes with a lack of opportunity. That's why I think these things are very systems based. But another system that exists is a social media that is more likely to show you now I'm gonna get Bam and I in trouble. It's more likely to show you bum fights. It's more like the YouTube algorithm in 2007 fights, right? Like, that was most of YouTube in the hood. All right, like, you got all these, like, Keyboard Cat and the original YouTube creator at the zoo. Like, that was white YouTube. Black YouTube was squabbles. Like, it was just brawls. It was just fights. It was just before Live Leak, so we weren't seeing all the beheadings and shit. But, like, that's what it is. And TikTok is, it's against community guidelines and all that stuff. But you're on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. You still get that stuff. I know the kids are getting all the same things, and they're seeing that, and it's like, oh, well, this person's just crashing out every single day. Shout out Less Scandalous. This person just, like, crashing out every single day. And
that's funny.
And what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
I do.
Gonna get this fade real quick. Yeah. It's like, oh, and he's got a bunch of views on TikTok and he's monetizing. So why don't I just fight people randomly? Like,
that's what I was gonna say too. Like, in this social media.
The point I want to make to that is that, like, we talk about how these algorithms are created, and guess what? They're not created by Black people, not created for Black people. They are created by white people and people who aspire to that whiteness. And, it's a patriarchy thing too. They aspire to that power that comes in the form of, like, white patriarchy. And they think that the brain incentive structures, what addicts people the most is that, like, the content you gawk at, the rubbernecking, like, oh, look at them fighting, look at all of that. There's a channel on Instagram that I was, like, just honestly reporting. So I was like, this is disgusting. This is too far. And it's basically like, it's called, I don't know if I should even be promoting them.
Just say it.
It's called Fat Fellas on Instagram. And it's basically a white guy who makes AI generated videos of life in the hood. And there's literally one of, like, these 3 Black dudes sitting in an alley, crisscross applesauce, eating watermelon and spitting out the seeds.
Oh, come on,
it's
dude.
Just like,
come on, dude. Yeah, you gotta go, buddy. That's
with like GTA rap music in the background. And no, like, I reported it, and this is Instagram under Zuck. We didn't remove the post. It doesn't violate our community guidelines.
Jesus, man, what the hell?
He's got a full page of those, and he's got a bunch of views and followers, and it's like, fairly different from, like, Adam 22 and No Jumper and Academics, right? Like, it's this, like, racial gawking and exploitation. But to my point is that like these algorithms are not showing I found some of these people, like Black folks talking about politics, Black folks talking about STEM, Black folks who are doctors. I'm not just talking about like, and again, like these aren't like buttoned up people, right? Like
They got dreads.
yeah, right. Like, if they weren't wearing their scrubs, if they weren't in a suit, if they weren't doing whatever, and they were in, streetwear, you wouldn't look any other way. But that is not being pushed up to the algorithm for like my tween and like young kid niece and nephew, right? Like they're seeing the ratchet stuff. That's the stuff that gets views and attention. I don't think that's just Mark Zuckerberg just created a completely agnostic algorithm that feeds into human behavior. No, these images, and again, like even before social media, the problem was BET in the cultural, right? And we're looking at, okay, this is a Viacom corporation. They're not looking for like what is the most uplifting messages for Black people. Where can Black people see themselves in, beyond some of their conditions? This is selling Procter and Gamble ads and the BET Awards every 4 months.
Right.
Right? Like, aren't you supposed to have like one award show a year? Like, what are we doing? But like, yeah, like so yeah.
Like we're what was I gonna say before? Like we're living in the social media era, like the clout era. And it's like, how do I get eyes on me? Like if you're that type of person, it's like, how do I get my clout up? And sadly, nowadays, like for like the young people, it's like the popular dudes is like Lil Durk and like literally like I don't want to sound like the old man on the hill, but like the popular people are literally talking about spinning on the ops. You can be a nobody ass rapper, but if you are rapping about your ops and spinning on your ops, you will get an interview on No Jumper
from your gated community.
You will get an interview on No Jumper. Academics will start talking about you. Like, oh, damn, look at he talking about, damn, he killed how many? Like, damn, he might be a problem. Like, that's how you get your clout up. You throw some guns in the video. Like, you can be having 9,000 monthly listeners and you can get an interview.
All you need is an iPhone, a beat up Nissan, and a gas station, and you can go viral.
And a couple blicks that you can get for like $30. This shit don't even have to work. And you just rap about your ops. You will get an interview on a platform that has 5 million subscribers, like in a week. So I'm not saying like that's the issue. Like I'm not saying like that's it, but it is like that. And like that's part of the algorithm. It's like, oh, we're gonna push these people who are like detrimental and negative solely. Like these, like, and I'm glad you mentioned them because I was going to mention those people like platforms like No Jumper or academics or whoever the hell else is out there. They are pushing like that, and not only pushing that, these types of people. I guess, yeah, you know what? Adam 22 is part of the problem. Academics, they are online only. And they talk about Black culture from that prism of like just the worst of the worst examples. Like all Black people are doing is killing each other and living in the ghetto and poverty. So like that shit just like permeates, and it's gonna have an influence on young Black males. Like it's going to have an influence no matter what. It might not be the primary influence, but it is going to be an influence. And like, it's just a problem overall. I mean, this is a problem when it comes to like media that young men are consuming. I know we talked about this, like before the election and stuff. The media for young men is just like terrible. They're all trash. And I feel like the only one that's like popular, I don't even know if he has like a young audience like that, is like Hassan, I guess. But like, I don't even know if his audience is young like that.
I mean, yeah, left of center, probably Hassan, and yeah, I think he has tend to be younger audience, like between the ages of like, I think I think the median age for his audience might be like me, like 28, perhaps. And
Okay.
honestly, frankly, younger.
Okay, that's good. But like somebody like Aiden Ross and freaking whoever the hell
Like
else.
my nephew is not watching Hassan.
Right.
Right. Like they're not. They're watching people like Aiden Ross or Andrew Tate. Frankly, not really. More like I Show Speed and Kai
Right.
Cenat and like
Right.
they're
good for now. They're not doing anything too crazy yet.
I mean, they've done their crazy things and they do a little bit of a shuck and jive thing. But I Show Speed has held up like a Free Palestine thing, and he just did like a really cool trip to China and was kind of showing people like, okay, you're going to be hearing a lot of stuff about China and all this stuff, but like here's me just like having a good time. I think that's a little bit better.
Right.
Yeah, you have these people are still share audiences with Aiden Ross, who I want to say like mispronounced Hitler or the Holocaust or something, and like didn't know about.
Oh my god! He like mispronounced.
I mean, more recently, I don't know. Like even more recently, he did the salute, the one that Elon Musk definitely didn't do, and he did it to a crowd of. Aiden Ross is Jewish, right?
Yeah,
so,
right.
Like, there's certainly worse things that we have as media out there, but I mean, like I was passing by out in Kanye academics world. Kanye is apparently releasing an album and he's wearing like a black Klans hood with like the pointy hat and everything, and academics got an exclusive interview, and it's really like the most like they're sharing a brain cell. Like Ak is like, so tell me about that music. And he says like the most vile shit ever. Just like, I have hatred in my body. Hitler was like just the most like.
It's ridiculous. I saw something.
11-year-old edgelord stuff.
Literally,
like
exactly.
This would be a little bit eye-rolly. Like this would be a little bit low-brow for a 10-year-old into fart jokes and saying the slurs he just learned. Right. Like this is a little bit low-brow even for that. Right.
Right.
But we talk about academics being in the prism of the internet, but guess what? The TMZ TV Fox show that's on cable TV that white boomers watch because they leave it on for local Fox News. There's academics, and they're playing B-roll of Kanye in that thing, and Ak is like, yeah, sometimes he's a little bit it's hard to put the pieces together. He's got like a little bit of a puzzle out there. And it's like, I just gotta imagine being the white Southerner watching all this, like going, look at these cones. Like white like, Uncle Ruckus voice. And and I mentioned all that in this conversation, like the context of the black things, because that is Kooning is getting the little amount of attention he's getting, that academics is boosting, and academics is able to, even after crashing out on Drake, and not to mention many of these other different artists, he's able to elevate himself and get onto these platforms where, Ak doesn't care about the perception of the African American male. Ak doesn't care about that. He just wants a check and he wants attention. Absolutely. And he will even chuck and jive on network TV with B-roll of Kanye West in a black Klan hood and robe full out and go, hey, he's a man of ideas. And that, to conclude, that creates a culture where even among white people, that becomes like some of the perception of black culture. And then when you are a black boy trying to figure all this out, it's like, okay, well, you got Ye and Ak over here, you got Kodak and Show Speed over there, you got maybe once in a while you see a black guy with glasses. Like, I don't know, like it is just so decrepit out there, and I don't know beyond like radical social changes and like me putting the gas on PBS and funding them more like is how you really get out of this.
The unfortunate thing too is that, I mean, and honestly, I feel like this is damn near a conversation not for the internet, but like the unfortunate thing too is like the quote unquote like smart people that are put out there are people like fucking Dr. Umar. Like that's the person that's like smart. who's put out there.
Like, I think I get what you're saying, but Dr. Umar is not necessarily consumed. Like, Dr. Umar's viral fame right now is not really black people. And this is the thing that, like,
no. Dr. Umar is not just like his Instagram or whatever, but he stays having a platform on Joe Budden's podcast. He stays having a platform on the Breakfast Club, which obviously is not like as big as it used to be, but like he gets a platform on there. He was just on somebody's he was on Drewski's show recently. And some other podcast is like pretty popular. I can't remember what it is, but like this is the person that's put out as an intellectual, like, oh, this is like the smart person, not just like a rapper.
Yeah, he's promoted as an intellectual in black spaces, but let's be clear, like outside of black space and even in black younger spaces, he's just a meme.
Yeah, he's goofy. He's for sure goofy for like young people, but it's still like that. I feel like him being like the quote unquote smart person is just still detrimental, because it's like, this is somebody who is like actually not intelligent and a con artist and just everything bad and negative, but he's being presented as somebody who is like, because he will talk shit about the rappers and stuff. Like, he will do that, but it's like, you're just as bad. Like, so, but like you said, you know, the algorithms are going to push certain people towards the black community. Why? What was his name? Was it Hoover? Basically said something like, we're gonna choose the next black leader or something like that. Like, so you're gonna get like these type of people like pushed to the forefront. It's hard to know what to do about that necessarily. I do think that there are good examples in the South specifically. That one mayor of Jackson, I forget his name. You know, you have somebody, yeah, right. You have somebody like Stacey Abrams, who's like a good example of like somebody, but like
Mayor of Baltimore.
What's his name?
I forget his name, but he was remember when the bridge collapsed and they were saying, oh, it's this DEI mayor because he's young and black, right?
Right.
Yeah. So like, you know, you
got Cory Booker. No, I'm joking.
Hey, man.
But yeah, like, and I can't speak to what these people are doing. Like, I don't live down there, and I'm sure there's people that are like going to the schools, like doing their thing, like speaking and stuff like that. But these numbers are, they're interesting. Like, I guess on some levels, like, I can't say I have enough information to say like what's really going on. Like I said, like maybe some of the black male students are like, we want to go to different schools, and maybe some of the black women are like, no, like we just want to go here. Or like, this will be like more of a thing. Now, speaking to that statistic about there's more non-blacks, like this, basically like the more non-blacks than black men at these HBCUs, there is like a DEI element to it, because a lot of the HBCUs do give advantages to non-black students to come there. And it's been like that for a long time. A friend of mine that I had she was Turkish. She was like looking for a place to do her master's. And I was like, you should look into a black college. And she literally ended up going to Alabama State to do her master's. So, and because she got like so much like money off to go there because they were looking for more diversity. So I would imagine that there are more non-black students who are like, yeah, like I'll go to HBCU. We saw Rachel Dolezal, Queen Mother, go to HBCU. So yeah, which is interesting in itself. It's also hard to know. It's like, well, maybe it's just like more non-black people are going to the school. Like, shit, I fuck with black people. I got a do-rag. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, I think, I've had this argument with some of my family members who are like big into HBCUs, and they, I was talking with one of them about like how I don't know if I fully believe this. And now we're getting into a real conversation. Like, why am I still live streaming this? But we'll do it. The FD Signifier released a Hotep video a couple months ago, and he started by going, "I hate doing this," and he showed his YouTube metrics, and he's like, because 2 years ago I was making videos, and most of the people watching my videos were Black. Now I got Hassan's audience watching these videos, so I have to watch myself. And he even says in the video, if you're a white person, don't tell your Black friends you watch me, okay? Do me a favor and don't tell them that you watch me. Don't say, hey, you should watch this video from FT6. That's the worst thing you can do for me. It's it's a sensitive thing. But I guess in thinking about how to reverse this trend and how to very clearly Black people are on our own in this country. If it wasn't clear during the Trump administration and any time before that, it's definitely clear now. And my cousin there's this phrase, the talented 10%, the talented 10th within the Black culture, and she's very much that. And she's like, we just got to start funneling people into HBCUs and all this stuff. And there gets to be this. My cousin lives like a capitalist every single day, and that's kind of the thing you get in HBCUs that I found that I'll be real. There's a reason that an HBCU didn't really appeal to me. Because one, I grew up in California and I got to grow up in other countries. Like, you want me to be in the South for 4 years? Hard pass. No, not even close, man. It's like, it's just a non-starter for me. I also grew up in very I don't do well in homogenous spaces, right? Like, that can be a white homogenous space. That can be a Black homogenous space. I just don't do well in that kind of environment. I need a multicultural environment. San Francisco Bay Area at the time I went was perfect for me, truly. But no, I didn't get to. First of all, the Bay Area's got a shit ton of Black excellence, so don't start with that. Has a vast history of it. I know it's not the same experience and uplifting for a lot of folks who go to HBCUs and really speak valuably about that experience. I'm not trying to poo-poo that, but I found that a lot of people tend to be like, okay, I went to an HBCU. Now I'm going to get my bread up. Now I'm going to be the capitalist. And now I'm going to hire some workers to, perpetuate the system that we're getting out of. And then I'm going to be rich. And I'm going to have my little house in a peach tree. And, it's all going to be great. And I'm like, are y'all even, what's the point of an HBCU if you're going to come out like Jay-Z and Killer Mike? What's the point?
There is a lot of bouginess in the HBCU culture. A person that you hate did a film about it in the 80s called School Days, Spike Lee. But really good film, by the way. Also a musical, actually. But no, there is a lot of the Black bourgeois culture in HBCUs. Now we're getting too deep because I got a lot of people like that in my family too. Oh, just so bougie and they'll
talk about the Black struggle, and they'll hang the African art in their luxury homes, and they'll have a little African, it'll be the shape of Africa, a little scented thing hanging from their mirror of their Mercedes G-Wagon, and it'll be Atlanta culture, right? Black Mecca.
Right. Right.
The complaint about is that you go to a coffee shop or a hookah bar and you're dropping $200 and you got to wear your bling. And it's it's worse than Los Angeles about this showiness culture of flaunting your wealth. And I'm like, what's the point of us going to college if we're not up? And this is just, I am a very community oriented person. I understand that. So I don't see the idea of me doing anything to uplift myself if I'm not learning the skills to bring at least 5 people up with me. That's just fundamentally to my core. And a lot of people are
you're a leftist. That's why. And that's not the culture of that's not the Black community culture. It's not the leftist culture. It's left of center because it's civil rights and stuff like that. But from a financial aspect, it's get your shit up. It's really it's very capitalistic. That's 100%. So when you throw Bernie in their face, they're like, I don't know about all that, buddy.
literally.
Yeah.
It's you want this, and they would do all these. that was really Bernie 2016 was really hard for me. And Bernie wasn't doing himself any favors, to be fair. But the whole people working for Goldman Sachs, people working for Morgan Stanley, tell me that Bernie Sanders is a racist.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, where's the smoke? Your boss.
Where's
the Morgan Stanley? I've told this story. I'm going to leave the parts of me out of it, right? But in 2020, Morgan Stanley was in active litigation from their black former VP of like equity or whatever, saying that the company was racist to her. Right? So like, okay, it's happening to y'all talented 10th. And you mad about Bernie Sanders. You're not mad about Bernie Sanders because of racism. All right? Because I got photos of Bernie Sanders getting arrested for the black cause that are older than all of us, right? And that doesn't make him perfect, but I'm just saying, like, you got to put a little bit of respect on that name. You hate him because you think he's going to fuck with your money.
Exactly.
You became so white, you're like, oh, no. Top marginal tax rates going up? No, not me. One day I will make $245,000 a year, and so we can't have that.
No, literally, yeah. You get Americanized. I mean,
grandmas will be living in the South, rocking on a porch, mosquitoes flying around everywhere. You ain't sending no care packages. You ain't sending no checks. You come and visit once every 10 years when someone dies, and you're like, no. One day I'm gonna get into the next tax bracket, and I don't want Bernie Sanders to be there because I'm trying to do it for my people.
I saw people back then in both times talking about Bernie said he doesn't believe in reparations. And I'm like, well, who did? Like, who's the person that did say it that you're voting for? Like,
yeah, it's like, and Cory Booker did?
Yeah, right, exactly. Like, who did say it?
Barack Obama did? Kamala Harris did?
Because Joe Biden didn't say it. He didn't say it. His boss was black for 8 years. That's why he fucked with him. Like, but no, honestly,
Gavin Newsom literally dangled reparations in the over the heads of all black Californians. Like, here, Negro. Like literally going, oh no, we'll do a commission to do a study to look into the idea to map out I got a TV show. Sorry, I'm out, guys. Peace.
Like, right.
Yeah. So there's all these, and that gets back to this, like, we're really off the topic, but we're almost out of time anyways. But it gets back to this. If it's going to be a culture, and this can go outside of black culture, because it's always like there's this dynamic in Latino culture, there's this dynamic in Asian culture.
White people too. More white women go to college than white men too.
Yeah. Adobe. They're a tech company. They make Photoshop, Premiere, a lot of different things. One of the single largest expenditures of Syndicate 23 is the $600 a year Adobe tax to be able to edit videos and shit. But they just got rid of all their diversity, equity, inclusion programs, and the Asian woman who is head of HR said that Adobe should only be hiring on merit, and we should stop with all these DEI hires. And that was really funny because like everyone just like did the whole looks at camera thing with this, because like DEI hire, come on down. This works on you, right? And again, like I am from the Bay Area, and yes, you get a lot of arrogant people of all nationalities in the Bay Area, especially. But a lot of my Asian friends from the Bay Area, especially my East Asian friends, not especially, but like a lot of my East Asian friends who tend to be that stereotype of they're from Palo Alto, their parents put them in the really weird schools, they got bankrolled to Stanford, now they're making $700,000 at a cushy tech job at the same place they grew up in. No, I know a lot of people who like maybe kind of adjacent to that, but have smarter politics and like better politics fundamentally, and all of that ultimately comes down to chasing this ideal of white patriarchy and thinking that being adjacent to it protects you. And white women have played this game very much. You'd become adjacent to white patriarchy to gain some power for yourself, and then get your own. That's how you got the girl boss sort of thing. And you got the same issue there with liberal white millennial feminist girl bosses. I know a lot of women can maybe think about here, where it's like, okay, You got yours. How many other even white women are you bringing up? You love to talk about your in this house we love and we praise thing. You talk about your black friend or whatever. How many black women are you trying to hire? How many organizations? Because like colleges have all these like consulting clubs and law review things. Like how many organizations are you going to and actually looking for to recruit these people in colleges? What effort are you doing? Are you letting AI auto read resumes for you because that's easy, right? Like
Right.
there's a difference. Yeah, and this is another phrase, like black faces in high places. That's not what works. There's a lot of people who are supporting Kamala Harris, and there's certain identity there. Like I get that, but even though I'm not a black woman, and during the campaign, like there was a sort of like speaking out of place thing about that I was trying not to do with a lot of my friends there. I'm like, yo, we went through Obama. We saw this like, oh, we see representation. We're going to get it. The Boondocks episode was all about this. Like, Granddad thought Obama was going to lower his taxes. Riley thought that Obama was going to let black people do whatever they want to, and that the FBI is going to work for black people. Like, we had all these. Obviously, that's a cartoon, but like we had all these fantastical ideas of blackety black Barack Obama, and the white side came out the second he got elected. He threw us a tan suit for scraps, and that's all we got.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even say it like that, because I mean, I never thought like the president's supposed to work for black people, whether they're black or not. Like, you're working for this system, but there is that thing that, and you know, I don't blame like a large part of the black populace for falling for it. When you are the oppressed minority of the place, when you see the representation, you're going to get excited. You know, like I can't be mad at people for that, because not everybody is like as, you know, politically read and things like that. But for sure, like, you know, it's going to take a long time for this place right here to get to a place where it's like any level of like equity. Like, you know, I'm talking about a long time if it's possible. Like, that's a really, really hard fight. Like, this is a country, like Abraham Lincoln was trying to get rid of all the black people, and he wasn't the only president that tried that. Like, this isn't like a country where it's like, this is like a place where the black minority has been so oppressed and so downtrodden. Like, it's also like, I'm not mad at people that say like, I want to get mine. Like, I think we're still in that era, because we're talking about Strom. Every time I say his name, I think I'm saying the wrong word, but Strom Thurmond, that's like the lifetime of people's parents and grandparents was on the floor fighting against civil rights. Like, that shit is not that long ago. So there is
Donald
like,
Trump today is fighting against
right,
civil
Donald
rights.
Trump is literally telling French companies, don't do DEI. Like, if you want to work here, if you want to do business in America, don't be having DEI. Like, so it's still to this day. So I think there's still a lot to like overcome within the black community. I'm not mad at like this black populace for not being there yet, because we're fighting against a lot. And going back to the initial thing, like about black boys attending college or attending these HBCUs, like there is still like this, you know, assault on the bodies of black males. Like, there are so many things in place, whether you see them or not, for like that person that's like against you. There's a lot like in your schools and stuff like that. They want you to go to jail. They want you to be like going into detention. If you speak in class,
pipeline.
Yeah, like you talk in class, you're getting suspended, but like this person talks in class, it's no big deal. I literally told Asma, the girl I raised, now it's 9:00, it's 9:01. So, but her senior year of high school, she was late every single day. Like, missing her first period every single day. I told her, if you were a black kid, your ass would have been suspended. Like you would have been
a black kid in California, your parents would have been in jail.
Yeah. I'm like,
Kamala Harris.
yeah. I'm like, they would have been like coming to the house, like, what's going on here? Like, that's the reality. Like, it's still like you're still behind the 8 ball so much. So Dan, quit. No, I'm joking. Cut Blackie some slack, Dan. And what does YN stand for?
No. I think all of that is crucial to remember. And as we're winding down, like, people who have been fighting and struggling, like, believe me, I felt it a lot in a couple of months. I was like, man, fuck all this shit. let me get my fancy EV and just like drive into the sunset, right? But like, you know, there's moments where you have the discipline as someone who's working in politics, you know, like figure out how to not burn yourself out from it. But yeah, not everyone has that activist discipline or that background. They're like, okay, you know what? I've been trying this for 10 years. My bank account's looking pretty. So like, I really want to change this up a little bit and do things for myself. And in a society where the only way you get up is through individualistic choices and decisions, oftentimes, yeah, it's like what you're forced to do. So, you know, it's another systems, not people conversation. So yeah, ultimately I blame, you know, there are always, it's like with the where the fathers conversation in any context, not just like in a certain culture or not, because white deadbeat dads, you think those don't exist, buddy? if white deadbeat dads didn't exist, it'd be so much easier for me to get a therapist. Let me just tell you that. But you know, that being here or there, of course there are conversations to be had about, okay, what can happen on the community level, what can happen on the local level. But if your worries in your community are not like, you know, oh, there's a couple kids who are falling behind in school or they don't have the resources, your worries are, you know, violence and a lack of access to food and transportation and, you know, the basics, and no real opportunities, and the nicest store in any city in a 20-mile radius around you is a Dollar General with groceries, like, then those priorities eventually fall down. So that's why it's important to, even going back to the Cory Booker conversation, I'm not going to try to shoehorn that in, but like, you know, we can't, our standards, we've let things get so bad and we've given ourselves the rose-colored glasses of thinking that we're making progress and the arc of the universe bends towards justice moreover with these things. But we've been backsliding and now we're slip sliding because of successive Trump administrations and successive inept Democratic administrations. So I urge folks, knowing what's at stake, to make sure that we are actively pushing towards, you know, big changes, not, you know, Kamala Harris's, you know, if you qualify for a small business loan and you go to college, you know, you make a degree, all these other different things. But like, no, get money in people's pockets at the ground level, find cheap solutions to solve people's most basic needs. And then from there, you get people to a level of, hey, you got food on the table. You've got a safe place to live. You've got, like, your parents don't have to work 4 jobs and they can actually be in your life a little bit. Okay. Now, what are your dreams? Now, what do you actually want to do? Because you can actually achieve that. There's a way to do that. What, you know, financial aid, whatever. Once we get the baseline up, I know you'll see more people across the board, more men across the board wanting to go to college. It also has to do with like a lot of the content that men are consuming right now, but it's 9:05. Thank you all very much for.
Was up with some reparations too? Shit, hell, goddamn, built this shit.
I mean, I will take reparation. I mean, I'm not gonna concede early, all right, but like, we need universal healthcare. We need, like,
can Blackie get it first?
We need, I want to be first in line, all right? We need you know, school programs that get people to, if we have universal healthcare, that's going to create an issue where we're going to get a doctor shortage real quick, because America's, our health is like, the moment you get universal healthcare and we like open up the floodgates, we're going to have a doctor issue. We're going to have to get some H-1B visas going. We're going to have to import some doctors from everywhere. But we're also going to have to train doctors. And if we go into communities, especially Black communities, and, you know, we get some more cultural understanding of people's health, and we're not just treating every single body like a white male's body, like science has done for, you know, 20 centuries plus. That's a really good influence for the society. That is part of reparations. Like it can take a lot of different forms, but ultimately capital needs to flow away from the haves and towards the have-nots. And it's not just like, a redistribution process, but I hate the term redistribution because it's always looked down on as like, oh, you're taking from the rich and giving to the poor. It's like, no, right now we're taking from the poor and giving to the rich. That's still redistribution. And I hate that. So, yeah, I'm against reparations and bans of racists as usual. This is a Power Report. Thank you very much for listening and watching. And as we always end the show, the power is always within you.
N-word.
That's what YN means. Thank you. Bye.
I love Tesla.